Good morning, Breakfast Clubbers.
Good morning.
Good morning, Donald. For the Trump report. Da, da, da. Frank got that from the I don't know if do we need this up the whole time? Maybe not. And then he's got I voted sticker. That sure as hell needs to come off.
At least off of your stuff.
Yeah. What we're going to do is Dr. Phranq is going to give us an update on, the Trump report, the live and in-person version of he and I do this every Thursday since like August. Last July, he contacted me and he said, Ernie, don't be a hater, but as certain as you were about the Levolution thing, what was going to happen there, he goes, I tell you, this Trump thing is going to take off more than people realize, and he wanted to talk about it on the air, and I said, hell yeah, this is going to be entertainment, we're going to have some fun. So what we wanted to do was just kind of give our perspective. Dr. Phranq has a big giant justice gene thing going on about the injustice that's done in the presidential election cycle when you're dealing with all candidates, third party, Ralph Nader, what happened to him, really set him off, certainly Dr. Paul. And when you have Donald Trump meets with the Republican National Committee, signs a paper and says, yeah, I'll support the nominee if you guys don't Ron Paul me. And so are they Ron Pauling them? They're changing the rules, which is what we anticipated. The main thing is that Dr. Phranq will tell us when Hillary's going to jail. But, our whole thing is that, I'm going, look, it's going to be Hillary, Rodham Clinton versus, Rotten, yeah. And then versus Jeb Bush, okay? We got Jeb W's brother Bush that's going to be the candidates, in my opinion, that we're going to run against each other. Well, Trump kind of, threw a monkey wrench in that, but Jeb is not dead yet. He's going to come back, resurrected at the convention of whatever. So we'll see what happens, but it sure as heck has been entertainment. Following the Trump phenom has been Dr. Phranq Tamburri every week watching Fox News, MSNBC, and CNN so we don't have to. Then taking all that information and clips and so on and making them available on his iPad that we play into the show and commentary. And I think the least we ever did was on a radio show an hour. He was in Seattle at his other office, doctifying, doing up there, and we'd have him on for. Other than that, it's been at least 3 to 5 hour shows every Thursday. And there are hundreds of people that listen to this thing on a regular. I see the traffic, and they just love that. Just boom, 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 the entire 5 hours. It's amazing. How many in here have listened to the Trump report on the thing? Get a life. Anyway, so this is, I find it fun, entertaining, and educational, but it's also chronicles from our perspective what's happening in this process. And we've always known this kind of stuff happens in the process, but it's now documented. It's just, let me show you what they do on a regular basis. This is real politics. And we're getting a big giant dose of it. We just had on the front page, you look up Freedom's Phoenix today, how to rig an election. And it's all about this one gentleman used computers and had access to the election process in Latin America. And it's just Latin American elections, have never been known for being accurate. And when you get a populist candidate that's against the system and the people immediately support that, every time, dead. Just assassinated. In the end, you're not allowed. Yeah, but what if, and the people really, what if, we got bullets for that. Tyranny. There's an app for that, okay? So, us watching this, knowing this is coming, and the big thing that bothers me is if you were to talk about assassination, death, killing, running over with your car, their wives. I mean, if you were to do this at any other candidate on the planet, people would be in an uproar. The media would go freaking bat crap. They would just, this would be a big giant deal, but because it's Trump, it's a permission slip for somebody to shoot him. They're building this up. I've seen this happen before. When 9/11 happened here in the Valley, there was a gentleman, he goes up in his pickup truck, he goes to a corner convenience store gas station where some Sikhs were there, and they wear turbans, but they're not Muslim, shot and killed him. Sudi Singh, I think was his name. And when they did that, why? Because the guy, yeah, it's time, ooh, go get some. They got the support. Look, I saw reinforcement on TV. And people of weak mind, they want to be the hero. They're going to get, I'm going to get me some coverage now, and I'm going to tattoo I Love Jodie Foster on my forehead. Okay? So this is, then we find out Hinckley, I got to tell you this timeline. This is good. Okay. Here comes Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, I don't like me some Trump, man. Trump we don't like. Now, of course, I loved him when he gave me money in 8 and 12, and then I lost, and he got pissed. But hell no, not Trump. From the Hinckley Institute. Now, behind him, it says Hinckley Institute. Is that the same people? Yes. It's the Hinckley, the guy that shot Reagan's dad and grandfather. That kind of goes back into the. Well, I'm going. Are you freaking kidding me? Is this like a hint or something? So then you find out that Hinckley that shot Reagan was kind of, I guess they want to get the impression he was mentally slow son of this rich family, that they was as a patsy. What happened? He's living in the lap of luxury. We need to make sure he was taken care of at taxpayer expense. So the guy, he checks himself in, does whatever, he's fine. We took care, we got that son taken care of and furthered the empire, in the same swoop. So you can't make this stuff up. So us covering this has been us documenting and demonstrating to the world what we knew was going to happen. Trump represents nothing else, to me, nothing other than a middle finger to the man. That is it. It is like, the more you don't like him, the more you're trying to get him, the more we want to support you. Hell yeah, give us some Trump. Well, do you like what he says about the wall, the Muslims, the war, the this, the that? Nah, not really.
Don't care.
Then why you vote for him? Because they don't like him. It's really no more complicated than that. Yeah. So I'm just following this. Dr. Phranq has got... Dr. Phranq! Is he out there?
He was standing right
there. I just saw him walk that way. Yell for him. So he's got to come talk sometime. He's late even when he's here. I mean, seriously. We've been coming back from the radio break, and he's off wandering around. ADD, man. It just kind of, squirrel. I mean, so we'll get him in here in a little bit.
Right here. There he is.
There he is.
All right. One moment. There we go.
So during the process of us covering this, we've learned a lot. And the biggest thing that we've learned is that the people are no longer rose-colored glasses on the system will eventually work. Because it's not. It's been working against us. Oh, here's one thing. Phranq found this online. It's the Trump coloring book. Okay? We're going to pass it around, but don't get your greasy fingers on it. Don't get it wet. Be careful and be adults, and, and don't mess it up. Because there's some beautiful stuff in here that I did. All right. Here's one from Serenity, and it's like, I aim to misbehave, okay? So that's one that I did. Now, they have all these different ones, him meeting aliens,
The Enola Gay.
And the Enola Gay. That was a really cool one. Dropping the bomb on. Yeah, and there's one Barry Hess did of him playing chess with Putin. And there's just all kinds. I mean, you got to see this. And so if some of you want to take the time now and you got skills, don't be jerking up our really cool, it's going to be auctioned off for $1 billion coloring book. But, you pick one, you got the time and the stuff and clear off all the crap. you know, you go ahead and call her a page.
It was on TV too.
I will.
Oh yeah. Okay, all right. Go ahead and give it back to. Well, come get it, Yvonne.
Hey, is Trump's wife in there?
No. That's a good point.
Why
That's a good
didn't I
point.
bring my coloring crayons? Someone told me to.
This is
Are there crayons?
those of us that were involved in the Ron Paul phenomenon can recognize a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of things, people being creative. With Trump, it's a little bit different, though. It's different in the sense that the people are not trying to make Ron Paul seem like Ron Paul being serious and a contender and having legitimate philosophy and using that as an education tool. With Trump, it's not like that. Trump is just entertainment. Everybody's just having fun with it. Everybody's just making fun of the system and using him to do it. But it pisses off people like Pat no end. I mean, it's just, yeah, listening to this guy, oh my God, nobody's listening, nobody cares, you know?
I like the fun.
So we're just having some fun. All right, well, let's go ahead and get, everybody get refreshed on coffees and so on, get sat down, and then we'll get right to Phranq Tamburri.
Clap.
Yeah, watch that
Yeah, he voted for Brett.
I couldn't vote. They had switched my registration to no party.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that to me too.
Yeah.
I wasn't registered as a Republican, so I couldn't vote for Trump.
Okay, we got a lot to get caught up on from the beginning of last month. That was the beginning of March. We had yet to have the Arizona presidential preference rip-you-off straw poll, doesn't mean anything primary. And Arizona delegates, I'm not sure exactly all this stuff about Trump has to get 1,237 delegates. Will that hold up? Even if he gets it, does it matter? Everything you're being told about rules and what's happening, what you need to do, even when you do it, we've been through this before with Dr. Paul. When you do it, it doesn't matter, they change. The goalpost keeps moving. Why? What's going on? What is behind all this? Where did Trump come from? What is his method? Is this part of his plan, or is he just as crazy? You know? So a lot of this is well known to our guest, Dr. Phranq Tamburri. He's going to tell us all about it. Dr. Phranq.
All right, so first of all, I just wore this Trump short shirt to tick a few people off. That's all. I believe it or not, I have not officially supported Trump, despite being on this Trump bandwagon, the Trump train. It really has been, and Ernie understands too. It's not about Trump supporting him. It's supporting his candidacy as far as sticking it to the man, and that's what this has been from day one. And I'll explain a little bit, earlier about what that means to me as probably, I guess I would say, a second generation libertarian, or at least libertarian conservative. But for some of you who have not seen me before, yes, this is what I look like in real life. I know I've been listening to radio a long time, and it's always fascinating when you hear a voice for a long time, and then you see the real person, you say, that's that person? That's not who I really thought. How many, show of hands again, watch or listen to the Trump Report? We have a few? Okay. Well, and for some of you then, since the majority have not, I'll kind of apologize to those of you that listen regularly. It sounds like we have a number of listeners, but I'll kind of start from scratch a little bit to explain really what this is and where my positions have been on Trump. Because, it's been an interesting week. It's been a very bad week for Trump, and I'll tell you what. We'll have an interesting show this Thursday because it really could be the end of Trump. It's almost like a vaccination he's had against the media, and they found the right virus, and it was a triple, quadruple whammy this past week, and there's a really, really good chance that it will just disseminate like a bad virus all the way in and take them out with Wisconsin and how the numbers are lining up. We have a chance to talk about it. It could have been the death nail that what hit him this week, but I had an interesting dream the other day. Actually, this morning. I was wondering what to talk about or not. But it was fascinating. I'm a physician. I play doctor by day. I'm going to talk without this. I'm going to keep leaning into this thing. But I play doctor by day, and being springtime, I'm getting hit with a lot of the new contracts. The medical school called me to start teaching at the new class. The business seminar wanted me to speak. There's a lot of these things I'm honored when they ask. We're in the top dock. The issue came out, so our office was in there, which is nice. And not to brag about it, but this is the type of thing that I'm involved right now. And I had this interesting dream about this thing with Trump. I had this dream where, you know, I was at this medical conference, and I was invited to be there, and some doctor picked me up, and I am in the presence of this large congregation of doctors, and this person who picked me up was this kind of very liberal type physician, I guess, and somehow must have something about me, maybe I had a Trump t-shirt, I'm not sure, but couldn't believe I was a doctor, couldn't believe I was there to speak. And she basically had the security come to take me away. And I'm all ready to give a presentation.
She was smart.
And I kept, you know, here I am, I have this, you know, I give pro bono work to patients, I do all this to help, and all of us, we do our own thing to help society. And yet here's someone with this judgmentality, assuming that just either my demeanor, I ride a motorcycle, whatever it is, not fitting the narrative of what the new political elites tend to want. And they called security, and then eventually the head physician showed up and vouched that I really was a doctor. I really was the speaker. And she had this look, like in slow motion in this dream, this look, and it turned she was gobsmacked, and then this anger. And then for me, finally this anger began to reciprocate back to this rage and apathy towards her. And then I woke up out of this, I was very frustrated. And trust me, I don't care what people think. That's what's sort of odd about such a dream. That's not me. But I think it represents in many ways this tension that's going on, you know, in the country right now. Why, and Ernie and I speak often, why don't you see people with, you know, Make America Great, you know, hats? I'm not saying this group, whether you support Trump. What I'm saying is for the outpouring of support that you're seeing for Trump, and I know because I've been to the rally here, I've never seen anything like it. I've seen Bill Clinton in person, Ross Perot back in the day in person. I saw George Bush Sr. in person at Penn State. I've been around seeing him. I tried to get in to see Cruz, but I had a medical meeting I couldn't miss, so I missed him. But we had a gentleman on the show that did go to that rally, so-called rally, and he said how there was sort of, yay. They had to drum up people to clap. But the outpouring... Have you
seen Bernie?
No, and actually I wouldn't mind. When he was here, I tried to go. My friend,
that guy
did
go to Bernie.
He did go to Bernie as well, and he said there was definitely some good energy there, and he was standing behind him, by the way. But the thing is with Trump, he definitely has this outpouring of support, more than I've ever seen. I mean, even more than Ron Paul. I mean, Ron Paul, amongst our community, obviously, you take that and multiply it. And he's generating support from around the country. I understand him a bit more, and we'll get to that from where I'm from. I'm from Philadelphia, Philly East Coast. I listened to him back in the day when he was on the Howard Stern show. I mean, Howard Stern started the East Coast market, New York, Philadelphia, Delaware. And so Trump was like a regular on the show back in the late 80s, talking about when he was caught sleeping with Marla Maples and got her knocked up. And I remember, you know, the Howard Stern deal. So he has that blue-collar type of feel that the steelworkers. I come from this Italian steelworker family. I'll just leave it there, but they kind of know Trump's circles back east. You have the subcontractors, those are the mafia people, there's the unions, that whole world. The steel mills are all back east. And that they love Trump. They love that mentality. It's so much that the Democrats are all leaving. I mean, thousands and thousands of new registrations, people dumping the Democrat Party for the Republicans just to vote for Trump. So that's all in the Northeast. So that's the area that Kasich keeps thinking he's going to hit. He thinks that those are all his numbers, but those are probably going to go to Trump, including New York. I mean, huge electoral votes there. So the thing is, with all this support, more than I've ever seen for any candidate in my experience, I don't think, I mean, the only thing close maybe would have been Reagan, and maybe when we have Q&A towards the end, I have asked some people a little bit older, did you ever see anything like this with the Reagan run? Because this is the most similar, if anything, there's some parallels. And I don't think so. So the question is, where are the hats? Where are all the bumper stickers? I got a Hillary one. That's good for prison. I like that one. There we go. Yeah. So where's the support? We saw Ron Paul posters all over the place, or at least some Bernie Sanders. You see some of that. Some John McCain, even around here in Arizona, God forbid. Jeez, I know. Sorry, I know you guys are still eating. But I'm just saying that where is the support for a movement that is redefining America, whether Trump makes it or not. Remember, it's not Trump. It's the energy behind it. It's what he represents is what this is. Where is it? I feel a tension similar, maybe you guys didn't feel it out here. Back east, I remember the day when the OJ jurors let go of OJ. And I remember, and I'll be upfront with you, I remember for a couple of weeks, I was angry at seeing African Americans on the street. I remember going to the mall and just seeing the celebration when he was let out. And again, I have that justice gene. It's not a racial issue, it's called justice. And seeing that, and just based off of racial reasons to let him go, it seemed, at least that the perception was, I felt that tension in the East Coast, where you almost didn't even want to talk or bring things up or even discuss. And I feel that now amongst people. What's different is my medical office. Without trying to plug my office, I have a cash-only practice. I've never taken $1 of insurance from day one. I decided on my practice because, just a real quickie for those of you that don't listen to the show, let me give you a quickie background. My grandparents raised me from the Great Depression, so I'm a little old-fashioned. They taught me about politics and economics from an old world. They had taught me that eventually at some point, without gold, the economy will take a dirt nap, probably when I'm about 40. So I had to figure out, what do I do as a job when I'm 18? And you're trying to think that I'm going to be too old to find a new job, but too young to retire early when you hit 40 at that age. What do you do? How do you find a job? My grandparents warned me, and they said, from the Depression, they said there were 3 things you could do, and you'll never starve. They said, 1 is you can learn to feed people. You know, be a farmer. Work at a food store at least. They have good unions the way they looked at it. 2, learn to fix things. Be a plumber, a mechanic. Or 3rd is to learn to heal people. You know, be able to just be a doctor or a nurse or a pharmacist, and you'll never starve. So that's one of the reasons I went into medicine, but also decided to be a cash doctor and come to Arizona, the type of doctor I am. Thing is, I tend to see men that are CEOs. They tend to be either affluent or educated, or just people who are pains in the you-know-what, like from this community, people who challenge the system. Because like politics, medicine is also going through the same division. We are seeing this anti-establishment movement around the world. Now, I'm not sure where it started. I'm sure it'll be an interesting discussion. We could all trace back. I would even say Wendell Willkie, 1940, and then we'll talk about later. 1940s Wendell Willkie. That led, in my opinion, eventually to Barry Goldwater. That led eventually to Ross Perot. That led to the Libertarian resurgence. That led to Ron Paul. That led to the so-called Tea Party. And that gave birth to this Frankenstein monster of Donald Trump. And whether he gets in or not, it's going to be some kind of explosion or manifestation if he doesn't get in, whatever comes out of it. And like the debt ceiling, where it's first they never have it, then it's 50 years later they have to do it again, then 25 years later, then 10 years, and it keeps getting quicker and quicker, like giving a steroid injection. You have to do it a higher injection and more frequent until finally the patient has a heart attack. That's what's happening with our economy. It keeps getting quicker and quicker and higher until if it codes. We're having the same problem, in my opinion, with this establishment, anti-establishment movement. You know, it took Wendell Willkie the first time to get to that point, and as I said, each new movement comes and it gets stronger and stronger until now the frequency is so high and so strong, Donald Trump, and it may or may not be the death knell for this country. You have the economy on top of it, which is going to potentiate the issue, whatever it is. But it's going to, we're at that point. Anyway, pulling all these little points together is my medical practice. I tend to deal with people who are anti-establishment. We're seeing this movement around the world. We have, I'm sorry, I went off track there, but with the Arab Spring, we might argue the Arab Spring was a sense of anti-establishment, however we look at that. We're seeing Europe and all of the rest of the world having an anti-establishment movement. England right now discussing, do we get out of the Eurozone? I mean, that's an anti-establishment movement happening there. Now we have in America, the anti-establishment. You know, your hero, Bernie Sanders. You've got, Ron Paul. We have, obviously, Donald Trump. Ben Carson. I love Ben Carson. And then in medicine, the same thing. As for the gentleman in the audience, I'm sorry, I just do prostate cancer all day. I just saw 6 patients yesterday, trying to save them from having the prostates ripped out. That's all I do. It's not natural medicine or alternative medicine some people look at. It's anti-establishment medicine that really is what is driving this alternative realm. It's not alternative herbs, it's an alternative medical system people are looking for. So I'm seeing this alternative anti-establishment movement in all areas of my life and society is how I see this. It's not Trump. He's just a manifestation of it. And I see patients all the time that come in. I don't have a Trump hat outside my practice, but I'll tell you what, almost all of my patients are Trump, or they wear Ron Paul, or they're Ted Cruz, or they hate all of them. They just are libertarians, say I hate all of them. I don't want to vote for any of them, right? I mean, so it's, maybe it's like attracts like, or it is a movement of the silent majority, which is what I personally find. Many of you probably met strangers. How many of you ran into people during the Ron Paul years? And you would say, hey, how about Ron Paul? And they'd say, what's the first thing out of their mouth? I love Ron Paul. I would definitely vote Ron Paul, but he's not going to win. So I have to vote for the winner, right? It's like picking the football team to the Super Bowl because you don't care about him, but we want to at least get one that wins instead of standing for principles of who you believe. And that's what people have been selling out for year after year. You sit back and you think, if you just vote your conscience, then maybe we would have a shot at it. And no one ever does. And not to mention, they don't understand how rigged the system is. How many of you know the system's rigged?
Oh my God.
I guess he doesn't. You don't know it's rigged yet? Ernie will get you after the show. But yeah, it happens to be rigged. But the thing is that
wrestling isn't rigged either.
We take this for granted. And that's the part that that's why I've loved this Donald Trump movement. Because as much as we sit back and say, oh, geez, here we go again, what's the change? My favorite line, it just doesn't matter for Mr. Ernie Hancock. I think it does in a way, because in this case, at some point, the lights go on and the cockroaches are seen and they scramble. And technology and the society is changing to the point where the establishment is being found out. That is what I am excited about.
Yeah.
Let me and this is what the Donald Trump movement is really showing. When I have Fox News, and yeah, it is true. I've even gained too much weight because I sit all day now watching these shows, and it is. I need to get out because this has been dominating everything. And the young woman in the back has been Miss Dr. Savard has allowed me some leeway, like Donna Hancock here. It's been. I give her a lot of credit. And by the way, she's a Sikh as well, so she knew the gentleman who got shot, so it's her community. We're talking about Sikhs. But in any case, this movement is exposure. And this means more to me than anything, okay? Because Ernie has already, in my opinion, again, I'm sure we'll comment on this afterwards, you've heard him on the radio, but where he and I have a friendly discussion or debate, is Ernie already gets it. We're on the same page. We know where this is going, and most of you too. But he's already skipping to the end. It's like, it's all done. Let's just wait for the revolution that's going to get there. My argument is, but it takes steps to get there, right? You have to get people pissed off enough to know the problem. It's like in medicine. People come to me often. Oh gosh, I never do this. I hate this. People come to me and they say, Dr. Tamburri, I'm taking Super Prostate Forte. What do you think about it? It's like, I don't know. Why don't you ask me if you should have a triple bypass of the heart right now? Like, do I really have an opinion? I don't know. What do you think about it? I need to look at your case. I need to have a diagnosis. I need to figure out your history. I need to know everything before I just sit there and tell you what to take, right? And the same thing. It's like you can't get ticked off. You can't know the solution until you know the problem. And the issue is, for our group, we already know the problem. The problem is the system. It's the man. It's the establishment. It's the electoral college. It's maybe not it's another issue. Let's just say the way the rules are with the so-called electoral college of the primaries, the preference polls. People think their vote counts. I mean, I don't have to tell this group. You all know the ways, the levels that it's rigged. Ballot access laws. The fact that you can have 4 people for President of the United States on your ballot and only 2 of them are in the national debate on television. How is that possible? I was 18 writing into the newspapers back then, right? People read newspapers constantly. I was 18. Yeah, I know. They're Bernie supporters. Protesters. Yeah. Anyway, but the thing is, it used to anger me. Where's the rage? Where's the outrage? Why is it? People can't just look at this and say, how is it you can have a football team win every game and make it to the end and then just say, you know what, we're not going to let you in the Super Bowl. I mean, if the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm from Philly, right? You can see how animated I am, Philly Italian. If the Philly Eagles won every game, and then all of a sudden, you know what, we don't like the color green. We don't think you're going to win because, honestly, their quarterback always screws up at the end. Any of you guys watching it, talking about choking. It's the quarterbacks of the Philadelphia Eagles. They always blow it at the end. Well, you know what? They're never going to win anyway. Let's just not let them in. You want to talk about riots in Philadelphia? God knows they riot over anything down South Street. So that is the anger and the rage that you would expect from people. Okay, when you have a candidate, people think everyone can be president, and you make it through everything, and they're on the ballot, and they're all 50 states, and they're not allowed on television. I don't even know where is the outrage. I don't care if it's your candidate or not. It's not the Libertarian Party. It could be the Reform Party. And Ralph Nader, for those of you who have not seen it, Ernie mentioned about the Ralph Nader component. There was a video that was on PBS. It's called An Inconvenient Man. And it's the story about Ralph Nader. Was shown on, it was Frontline. I think it was a Frontline special on PBS. So it's all liberal show, right? And they showed the story of Ralph Nader. And the most incensed clip, it's one of those top 5 that if I get a little audience, I say, watch this. It's Ralph Nader, who was kept out of the debates, right? And he was the spoiler, so to speak, the Ross Perot for the Democrats, right? They were worried that that he would take votes away from Al Gore. Of course, you know, Al Gore took votes away from Ralph Nader, the way I see it. But anyway, he was trying to get in the debate. He was 3rd place, and he was doing well. He was like 11%, 12%. They said, well, he shouldn't be allowed because he can't win. Of course, when the election was held and he won 12% of the vote, they said he took the vote away from Al Gore. They said he affected the election. So wait a minute, you didn't let him in because you said he couldn't win, and then after the election, they turn around and say he affected the election, which is why he couldn't get in, right? I mean, the hypocrisy of this. So you see, yeah, of course. So you sit back and say, well, what if he was in the debate? He really would have even more votes. Oh, we can't have that. Here's the kicker with Ralph Nader, though, and this goes back to Trump. This is about what he represents. Is that they had a kid that they wouldn't allow him in the televised debate. So they actually found a young man on the college of where this was being held, and he won a ticket to be in the audience. So the kid said, hey, he went to the campaign, and on television, they made a press conference where this young man, did you guys see this one? The young man on TV gave his ticket to be in the audience to Ralph Nader. So the only way Ralph Nader could be at the presidential debate that he's on the ballot is if some supporter gave him a ticket to be in the audience, right? And it wasn't even the main audience. This was an audience that was across the parking lot that was televised on the screen, right? So he was going to be in the televised section, I think it was. Anyway, so they gave him the ticket, and they made a whole thing. So then it comes the night of the primary and of the debate. And Ralph Nader shows up. He's all dressed, you know, impeccably, and he shows up with his son, who's also an attorney, and they walk up through the parking lot, and there's a bunch of supporters in the free speech zone off to the side, you know, Ralph Nader, and he just walked up the parking lot. And 5 police officers come down. You see 2 or 3 on this tape. And they had a guy with a camera watching us. And the police threatened him and said not only was he not allowed in the building, that if he didn't get off the parking lot, they would arrest him on the spot. And this is filmed. I mean, I don't know. This to me is like what's it called? There's a Zapruder film. There's a Zapruder. I always pronounce it wrong. Zapruder. Thank you. I always get that wrong. I apologize. To me, that's how important this is. Is how here's police officers saying that we're not allowing you, even though he has a ticket and he's on the ballot, and they wouldn't allow him in. So.
And he never got in.
He never got in. He never got in. And the police, he stood there. Now, of course, what's frustrating is Ralph Nader reminds me of, God bless him, Dr. Ron Paul. You know, and maybe you can see, I'm just here for breakfast, and you can see I'm well animated, right? This is how I get, this is my nice moment. So this is why I like Donald Trump, because he's not taking this crap. He reminds me of, if you see my Uncle Dom and my father and the Italian world I come from, they don't take this lying down. They have a strict sense of honor and code, but you sit there and you push them around enough, you stand up for what's right. Maybe that justice gene. And I can't tell you the rage I'd have watching Dr. Paul, and I love Dr. Paul, you know, but he'd sit there and, you know, they would screw him over, and he'd just, well, you know, they're kind of afraid of my message, and they're not ready for it. Like, I don't know how many televisions I went through at my house. I'm just saying. So this is the rage that I have been building up from candidate to candidate. I know Dr. Paul has another view, which I respect. It's like Gandhi. It's Dr. King. It's through peace. It's through, you know, eventually you change minds. And it's probably Ernie Hancock as well, to his credit. You know, he's a very honest guy who allows all sorts of other views and is not as animated. Well, he is, but maybe not as Italian-minded as I am with this. But this is the rage, and that's why having someone from New York, from Manhattan, who has a whole bunch of attorneys, okay, he's not going to sit there when they turn the lights off on you in Nevada during the caucus or so for the votes, and people just go, well, you know, I almost got arrested myself here in Arizona. Ernie knows the story because they tried during the primary here with Ron Paul and Mitt Romney, and all the Ron Paul people were there. They got all the votes. They didn't expect to contest the primary here in Arizona. They got the votes, and all of a sudden I said, I was the one guy that asked all the Ron Paul people.
The Arizona convention.
The convention, Arizona convention. I said, well, where are the votes? They whisked the votes away. All the box of all the votes. After all this time we spent arguing, and I said, where is it? And I forget who it was with the Ron Paul campaign, and he didn't realize either. So I went running around looking for it. I found it in the basement of the convention center, wherever this place was, a big. And I get down there, and I see the establishment down there with their little machines tallying it. And I got in there, and they tried to keep me out. And I said, no. I said, no, there's not one Ron Paul person here, and you're counting the votes. So eventually they then called they had the sheriff's police there, and the head of the RNC for Arizona tried to have me arrested and said, please, you know, this guy has to be escorted out. And I said I wasn't going to leave, and he was going to have me arrested. And finally the police officer came over, a couple of them were younger guys, and they asked me what was going on, and I told them, and they defended me. And they said, well, he's got a point. And they said, you know, he's not doing anything violent. I was standing off to the side. I was not saying a word. I was just being present. Police officer, I think he was a Ron Paul guy, actually. But he was just there, not a problem. But that's what they played. And after we were standing there, then we tried to call the Ron Paul attorneys. And we let them know. They said they would send someone down. We never heard from anybody. I'm not blaming them. It's just, you know, these. But Donald Trump already has attorneys at all these places. Right? He's already set for the legal fight. Eventually, though, speaking of the Ron Paul part, is after they were counting the votes and we were standing there, keeping distant, always technology tends to break. And all of a sudden, their computer system couldn't tally the votes anymore. And so we said, no problem, we'll wait until it's fixed. And this continued. Eventually, it's always amazing, it was about 3-4 hours later, then they turned the air conditioner off. And this was in July or August or whatever it was, and now it's really hot. And the establishment people left, but Ron Paul people just kept sticking around. And then they came and they said, oh, well, we didn't pay the rest of the rent for the building for the rest of the day. And they tried to kick us out. Then they called the police, and then they chased us all out of the building. And then we couldn't even be in the parking lot. So this is just status quo for the system. This group, probably, blood pressure's up a little, but it's another day in the life of libertine, constitutionalist individuals. Most Americans have no understanding this goes on. And when you ask about Ron Paul, the average layman says, well, I hear what you're saying, Dr. Tamburri, and all this. And I know you're in that Ron Paul thing, but, let's be honest. If your guy was that good, he'd probably be on TV. Right? There must be something you don't know. I hear what you're saying, but the problem, guys, is that no one wants to pay attention to how rigged the system is. And here's the reason. If you bring it up during the campaign season, no one listens because they think you're biased. They think you're like everyone else. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, when they debated. I mean, Hillary, if she had 30 seconds less total time than Barack Obama during the 3-hour debate, they would make a whole deal about how unfair the system was. 30 seconds. Right? Meanwhile, Ron Paul would be like, but one question after 3 hours, and they'd ask him about his view of pot, right? Thinking that's what the question was about, Ron Paul. So that's what they consider unfair. They have no understanding the level of just corruption that goes on in the system. So that, as I went back, people need to understand what the problem is, and they really don't. They think they do. If you ask the average American, do you think the system's rigged? Do you think your vote counts? People will all go, oh, no, of course not. I feel disenfranchised. But they really don't understand why. They can't really articulate because they don't understand the system. Now, Ernie understands the system, but this is where we disagree a bit, in a sense, is he already understands it, and he knows it's so rigged, it doesn't matter about the system because, you know, who cares about the rules and such? And he's right. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They'll just change the rules, and they'll probably do it, you know, right at the convention here on Donald Trump. But the thing is, though, is that you have to understand that the rules are there in the first place. You have to know that your vote doesn't really matter at the end of the day. That is where the outrage comes. That's where the change occurs, in my opinion. And that is what Donald Trump is finally bringing up. Ron Paul, for us, we understand it, because, to be honest, we're kind of, a lot of us are kind of old-timers here. We've been around for a while. But all the youngsters that Ron Paul brought in, they're the ones that woke up. They're the ones that finally were, yeah, like this gentleman's, you know, sorry, I keep picking on, he's my buddy here, but Bernie Sanders, you know, God bless Bernie Sanders. I respect him a lot, I'll be honest. I would ever vote for him? Hell no. But Bernie Sanders, I respect, because like Ron Paul and like Donald Trump, you know what you get. He believes what he believes, and that's something I respect in the face of what's happening. I mean, he will ruin this country in ways I can't imagine. No offense. But I respect the man, and that's something that I think we're looking for. Ben Carson, same thing, at least for me. I respect Ben Carson. You know, whether views or not, but as a person, I think we've lost that. But people just they don't seem to understand the system again. What I mentioned with Bernie Sanders is that his voters, the young people, are now starting to understand the problem, right? If they weren't registered as a Democrat, they can't vote. Then they say, oh, Bernie, everyone shows up, he wins a state, doesn't matter, he still can't win, right? Because superdelegates. What's a superdelegate? What do you mean? What's a delegate? Right? Now they're being introduced to our world. Welcome to the club, youngsters, right? That's what's going on. They're finally realizing what the Ron Paul people did in 2008. All these young people said, hey, Ron Paul, I want to vote. What do you mean I can't vote? You have to be registered Republican in order to vote? I thought I could vote. No, you can't. It's not an open primary. What's an open primary? Oh, well, you got to be a PC. For what? You have to be a delegate. What's a delegate? A PC. What's a precinct? Where's a precinct? All of these rules, and to Dr. Paul's credit, that is what he tried to educate. That's what Campaign for Liberty is, even though all I do is get emails anymore to money bomb every day. Money bomb to contribute to the campaign. But that is what the campaign was about, is to educate young people to be part of the system. The question is, and this is a question for all of us to figure out, and you know what, society's going to figure it out one way or the other, is what do we do with that information? Does learning about the system really change it? Is that really the goal? To get in and say, okay, if you can't beat them, join them, we'll become a Republican, and we'll change it from within. They're going to keep out third parties. They're going to keep them out illegally, and I'll explain one other point some of you may not know about the third party and TV. But they keep them out. So you're part of the Republican Party. You change it from within. Maybe if the system is proper, the way our grandparents told us, and apple pie and unicorns and rainbows, then maybe the system will change from inside legitimately. But once you're in and you still can't fix it, you'll realize the system is rigged, you'll see how it works, how the sausage is made, and you'll never have a hot dog again. And that's where, you know, ultimately the revolution occurs. So that is really the reason why I like people to be involved in the system. Another part of the system is television, Fox News. How many of you guys have watched Fox News in the last 6 months? I know Savard has, unfortunately. Okay, so you and you're the Bernie supporter. Okay, how many of you watched TV in the last 6 months?
We gave up Paige. We used to watch it a lot, but we gave up Paige.
Did you really? I've been watching all of those shows constantly. I know. I mean, my blood pressure, I gotta watch it. But let me tell you what's been going on in those shows. Don't worry, I won't be hopefully too frustrating. They are going through a shift as well. And it's fascinating to watch, guys. They are waking up as well. We're all going through this transition. right? The Democrats are split. They're finally being split. They're seeing the corruption of the Clintons, or at least to some degree. They see the establishment as being too slow towards their march to socialism. Then you have Republicans being split and decimated between the establishment and anti-establishment. The key is most Republicans didn't even know an establishment existed. They didn't even know it was there until this election cycle. That's the beauty of this cycle. And then you look at libertarians. Many of us being split. We're still buddies. We're still friends. Heck, even Ernie and I are still friends after all this Trump part. And why? I mean, he's no way in hell going to vote. Although, some of you heard last episode, I got Ernie. He is on the cusp of voting. No. To be clear, is that if Trump gets screwed, he agreed maybe we might do a write-in candidate as Donald J. Trump, just to stick it to him and do a write-in. So
I said I would run as a write-in.
Oh, you run as a
write-in. Voting.
Yeah. So the point is that, you know, even as libertarians and libertarian conservatives, whatever we are, we're redefining ourselves. I mean, there's Walter Block, who was on the show recently, creating libertarians for Trump. I mean, that sounds almost like an oxymoron, right, for people. And yet, why is this? How come we ourselves are split? Why do some libertarians find something appealing and others not? So we're going through this transition, this split, and hopefully not in a violent sense, but we're seeing this demarcation. The whole country has got to this point of a shift. What's interesting is historically, we go through these shifts about every 40 to 50 years, that the countries, especially in America, will go through a major shift, a generational shift, about every 40 to 50 years. So we're pretty much overdue for one. That could be what this is. So, you know, this is this split that we're finding, and I asked about television. Fox News is going through that. I'm seeing it on TV. During the Ron Paul campaign, there was no sense of an establishment or anti. They just were the establishment, but they didn't see it. When you're part of the problem, when you're in the fishbowl, you don't see the problem. That's been the issue. Sean Hannity, all these guys, many of them have been maybe with the people, more populist, but they're part of Fox, and there's kind of an agenda of how things are done. Yeah. But Trump has put this split and is forcing people now to pick a side. And fascinating is you have the populist people on Fox who are coming out in support of Trump. Never seen this. And others are going against, like the pure libertarian Glenn Beck. You know, he's now, libertarian. Well, he now, of course, is on Beck and Cruz. You've never seen this. Radio hosts don't pick candidates early in the process. They're staking their whole careers on this now. Never seen this before. Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, a couple of these guys, what they have in common is that they're in support of Trump, where other people on the show are not. And the hosts are battling this out now. I mean, this is an ongoing debate on the show. And what do they have in common? Is that Sean Hannity especially, and Bill, and Rush Limbaugh, they're all in favor of Trump, at least in spirit, kind of how I am. The spirit of what his campaign represents. And what they have in common is they all have the radio show, and they all speak with the people. They're every day, 3 hours a day, hearing from people. Every day, farmers, people saying, you know, we're not being heard and we're ticked off and it's about the economy, the Tea Party, whatever it is. They're hearing from them. The people who just get wrapped up in the Atlanta, Georgia CNN headquarters or Fox News, these elitist types, they're not seeing it. So the hosts that don't have radio shows are still part of the Fox establishment. And the people that have the shows talking to the people, they're seeing this break. I mean, they feel differently. Maybe they really get it because they hear it every day. Maybe it's because they know that the radio show pays them a hell of a lot more than their Fox gig does. And they know that, yeah, if they get fired from Fox, they'd rather keep the radio show because it makes a lot more money. That could be the reason, too. I'm not, not obtuse about it. But we're seeing this split. They're having conversations on Fox about the establishment. They're talking about the anti-establishment, the establishment. Guys, this was never talked about in the Ron Paul campaign. I know, because I watched it during those years. They're talking about delegates. They never talked about delegates before. We spoke about delegates. Ron Paul used to always say, it's about the delegates. It's about the delegates, right? I did a crash course with all this back in 2008 and 10 when I was at PC. But the average person hasn't. The Fox News hasn't. Remember the libertarians that were throwing snowballs at Sean Hannity because he screwed over Ron Paul? Remember? I remember that one. Yeah, it was probably maybe 449 was part of that one. I don't know.
I was there.
But I mean, that's what our movement has been. We've been there, done that, and we were ignored because they themselves did not understand the problem. Donald Trump has exposed this issue, and it didn't come out of a vacuum. It's because of the Tea Party, and it's because of Ron Paul who created that. So I give Ernie's always right, and many of you too. It's a cultural change, and it's not about winning an election. I completely agree. That's not always the win. It's the cultural change. If you can change the culture, who cares what your letter is after your name? And the question is Donald Trump an extension for the direction that we want to go in? This abortion issue, which is one of the reasons he's getting nailed, I think plays to it. I think he has a very libertarian slant. Not the way that this group might look at it, but let me give you an example. I spoke at the Republican precinct. It was the big giant precinct meeting. I forget, it was like 300 people there. And I made a deal with the head of the precinct that if the Ron Paul people would support him to be the new precinct leader, then he would give me
Legislative district.
it was a legislative district. I basically argued for a 30-minute spot to discuss the Ron Paul movement to all the Republican base. And this is in 2010. I gave it 2 years after 2008 for the dust to settle because I didn't want it to be a campaign speech. They wouldn't listen to me. But I said, let me just go in and explain what this was. Because if you think it's over, you ain't seen 2012 election yet, right? It's coming back. And I want you to understand this. And so we had this meeting. I paid personally for a whole nother room to be attached because so many people came out of the woodwork, kind of like we're seeing with Trump. All of a sudden, people showing up. They couldn't believe it. I put out one email, and all of a sudden we over doubled. Remember that, Savarna? We over doubled the room with all of these people showing up. One guy came all the way from Globe coming down to be, along with all these Republicans on a legislative district, to talk about Ron Paul and the Federal Reserve and about sound money at a Republican, establishment meeting. It was unprecedented. Showed up, and I gave a talk, and Donna and Ernie, they actually made DVDs of Freedom to Fascism, and I gave them out to all the members. And what I focused on, guys, aside from Ron Paul, and only a third of the room walked out on me, by the way, so I thought that was a success. 2/3 stayed. Oh, and Susan Bittersmith, she was out there using profanity, I heard in the back, and she just walked off. She ran for Congress. Anyway, I talked about the Nolan graph. Now, how many of you guys know about the Nolan graph? Most of you, the world's smallest political quiz. Okay, most of you took that. Okay, how many of you know about that one? Okay, so when you take it, you ask you 10 questions, 5 about economic and 5 about social issues. Okay.
Excuse me, Frank, is that the one that's more of a diamond?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And if anyone has a copy of it, some of you might have it. Just hold it up so someone can see it. But basically, it's a brilliant little quiz. And what Professor Nolan understood, and you knew Professor Nolan, didn't you? Yeah, he's a celebrity right here. Shake his hand. He was a celebrity. He knew Professor Nolan. So what he understood was that there was a left. People think there's a left and a right. There's liberalism and conservatism. That's only been a reevaluation of the country since the Civil War. Before the Civil War, we were more libertarian and maybe more socialist. I mean, there's ways you can describe this. But you have Thomas Jefferson, who was the ultimate libertarian, and then the opposite from him. After the Civil War and states' rights were finally trounced, the country kind of switched to a leftist and right, conservatism and liberalism. And if you think about it, what Professor Nolan was trying to point out was that every view that you have comes down to what is your view of government involvement on social issues and economic issues. Okay? The way I put it is, how much government do you want in your wallet, and how much government do you want in your bedroom? Kind of to keep it simple. Flag burning, abortion, gay marriage, whatever, right? That's what it comes down to. A liberal prefers, and we're talking the extremes here to see the coordination. A liberal ultimately prefers government out of the bedroom. Stay the hell out of it. But all of a sudden they want government in the wallet. They have no problem with that one. The antithesis of the liberal would be the conservative, right? They want government out of the wallet. But then they turn around and say, yeah, but we want them in the bedroom in our schools, and we want, all this. It's like, but what if you're consistent? What if you want government out of both? then you're a libertarian. And I mean that in philosophy, not the party. So hence you have the left and the right, the libertarian. So the left would be one up, one down, and then the other side would be one up, one down. And the libertarian would be government out of both, at the top of the diamond, and which means the antithesis of libertarianism would be authoritarianism, right? Which would be government in both. You want government in the wallet and the bedroom.
Statism?
Statism. It kind of changed. The older quizzes had authority. They changed the bottom, I guess. Politically correct, yeah. So that would be at the bottom. So what I was trying to point out, and by the way, the reason I was saying this to this group is I'm an acquaintance with David Schweiker. I represent David Schweiker. I know some groans with that. I know. Well, he was we actually worked for the Ron Paul campaign when he was younger. Back in the 1988 campaign, David Schweiker worked on that campaign. I saw pictures of him. So he's one of these hidden Tea Party type guys that, you know, is he a purist? No. He's ticked people off? Yeah. But anyway, he's a real numbers guy, David Schweiker. And we were going over the numbers, and he was showing how every single precinct has lost members, all of them. That every precinct, Democrats have gone down in membership, Republicans have gone down in membership, and the independents have gone up in membership in every precinct. And he even gave a whole speech about it at one of the precinct meetings, going all the numbers, every precinct, bam, 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 every one of them. And I'm sitting there going, hey, this is the problem, guys. The Republicans keep saying, yeah, but in this precinct, we still have 20% more Republicans than Democrats. They're not looking at this independent that is going through the roof. So what my argument is that the majority of Americans, in my opinion, are becoming libertarian in philosophy. That this independent movement isn't that they're just independent because they don't care. I think many of them feel that they are not a liberal, they're not a conservative, both parties are leaving them in the dust, and so they just give up and say, I don't want to be associated with either one of them, they're not matching who I am, I'll just be an independent. My belief is that they're probably libertarian in their views. They just don't know it because they don't know the home of the libertarian. They're not taught it. They're told it's a wasted vote. They're not on TV. You know, they don't know that they exist. That's my argument. You know, Penn and Teller's show, they're libertarians. They're very popular. South Park, you know, the kids all love South Park. It's all a libertarian show. I mean, there's a libertine movement. Republicans today, young Republicans, don't have a problem with gay marriage, right? It's the old Republicans that seem to have a problem. The young Republicans have no issue with it. So I really believe there's more of a libertarian movement, but no one's identified as libertarian. They keep thinking it's independent, and each party's trying to get that half of the vote. So the speech I gave to that legislative district, going back to that, is I told this group of Republicans that here's the Nolan graph. And all of these people are independent, and they're right in the middle. If you do the Nolan graph, you'll find that most people are somewhere in the middle of that box, and they're hedging libertarian. And I said, you guys need to understand this. The Ron Paul movement's not over. It's coming back. And I said, whichever party figures out this graph, whichever one understands this country is more libertarian and can tap into that libertarian movement will hit the mother lode of voters. I said, and personally, between Republican and Democrat, I'd rather the Republican Party figure it out than the Democrat Party. Just if I had a preference. Ultimately, I don't care. But that is where I saw this country going. And Ron Paul was, again, the brewing this, kind of showing the way. Donald Trump, I think, is the manifestation of it, not on principle, not on all philosophy, but some of his views of people saying, I don't care about all the rules. Let's just go on basic independence. Now, on everything, you know, is building a wall libertarian? No. Is, you know, I mean, I can go down the list of the policies, but at the same time, like the abortion issue, he got nailed the abortion. If you really listen to what he was saying, it sounds a bit more libertarian in a sense. He's saying, well, not libertarian, let's just say libertarian is, you know, who cares, right? But what he's saying is, look, if there's a law against abortion, if there's a law in the book, then we need to follow it. He didn't say that he agreed with it necessarily, he just said if the law's there, we have to follow it. That's what Sheriff Joe, and I hope you guys are all done eating by now. That's what Sheriff Joe has said. You know, people say, why are you going after people with marijuana? You know, fill up the jails. He said, I don't care. He goes, the law's on the books. That's my job. If you don't like it, change the law and I won't come after you. Right? That's his job to do it. It's just about rule of law. That's all they're saying. And now, our point of view is get rid of the law, and that's true. But at the same time, the law is there. So they asked him, if abortion is illegal, right, should someone be punished? And he's like, thinking on the fly, yeah, I guess so, right? His view after that, he stated, his personal view is it should be to the states. That's right. 10th Amendment, right? And that is a Ron Paul perspective. That's how we see it. Would we all like every state to say, forget it and do whatever you want to do? Absolutely. But to get to that point, the 10th Amendment is really a great stepping stone to that means. Is saying, let's let these states be the laboratories of liberty, however you want to look at it poetically, and let them figure it out. It's enough, if nothing else, it's a way to stop this country from dividing itself, expecting that everyone has to follow the same views. And that is what I think is killing this country, and that is what Trump is trying to be, is that last bridge, that last gum of the amalgam of what's left of this country. I said on the show, the last show, and this is something for those of you that heard it, you know, my mother and I had a disagreement years ago where she said, you never talk about religion or politics. Those are things you never talk about. And I, as a young man, said, well, then what the hell is there to talk about, right? It's like the weather, you know, the football games, and I realized that's what people talk about, yeah, they do. Right? And in other countries, because I went to college in Japan, Kansai Daigaku, and the Japanese, they talk about even politics at times, and I was in England and Mongolia, and I've been all different places. And, you know, people talk about politics, especially in Europe. You know, that's, well, soccer, you know, soccer too, football. Yeah. But the thing is that that's talked about. In this country, we all of a sudden stop the discourse. And because we don't want to offend people, we don't want to, you know, this is for generations. And yet, what's strange is, we will say that we don't want to talk in public about politics, but yet we'll turn on the television and have these people we've never met in our homes, in our living rooms, in our bedrooms. And they sit there every day and tell us their view. Do I care? Who the hell's Whoopi Goldberg to me? I don't care about Whoopi sitting talking to me. I'd rather hear what your view is and your view and discuss, honestly. Not a package, and I got to worry about a commercial break and whatever ratings. And yet, these are the people that America has learned to listen because we're afraid to listen to our neighbors. We don't want to offend anyone. And this has segregated us in views, in ideology, in philosophy for so long. Then comes the internet. I love the internet, but there's another problem, is that the internet has further segregated us. How many of you, you know, I guess it was Casey, I'm Casey Kasem. Maybe some of you guys are Wolfman Jack, right? Yeah. Which one is Wolfman Jack, is that? All right, there we go, Wolfman Jack. Somebody's like, who's Wolfman Jack, right? Anyway, he was like Casey Kasem. Anyway, so we all grew up, top 40. Right? Bee Gees. Was that?
Alan Freed.
Alan Freed? I don't even know Alan Freed. All right, bro. He's before my time. Sorry.
I know who he is now.
You know? So these are the top 10, top 40 countdown, USA, you know, Sgt. Pepper. The thing is, we all agree that Billie Jean from the Thriller album was the album. Billie Jean's Thriller was the song of the year, right? Sgt. Pepper, we agreed on the music. Now, I don't know what the hell people are listening. There is no top 40 anymore. There's no top 10. I mean, I'm listening to like Polish rap songs on my motorcycle, you know. Someone's listening to probably Korean sheep herders music, and there's rap over there, and who else? Who knows what you're... I mean, there's so many subtitles of music. I don't know what anyone's listening to. We can't even agree on music. Heck, I get married, I don't even know what I'm going to play, you know, except it's not going to be the chicken dance, I can tell you that one. But I mean, what do you... Like, there's no unity. How about the news? I mean, back in the day, we had Walter Cronkite, you know. Walter Cronkite, you know, Armstrong's on the moon, and we all get around the TV, and CBS, NBC, we agree on the news. You know, we watched it. Now, it rains, and we can't agree. Fox News sits there and blames one person, and MSNBC blames the rain on the conservatives. We can't even agree on the news coming out. So, you know, and therefore we find ourselves in each bubble. We have meetup groups where we decide, you know what, screw everyone else. I want to be with my like-minded, just like a group like here. And I love it. This is great. It's not an issue. But we are all doing this in so many ways, and we assume the world is like that. I met a woman years ago. I was doing organ transplant work. It was a long time ago. I think she was one of my nurses when the guy was in the 90s or something. And she She talked about how she couldn't believe that Ronald Reagan won. This was an old conversation. She goes, I can't believe it because I voted for Walter Mondale, and I can't believe Ronald Reagan won. It was unbelievable. She reminded me of a Fox listener about Mitt Romney, right? Oh, Mitt Romney's going to win it, right? Well, what was it? I said, well, why did you think Mondale was going to win? Now, she was from Hollywood, the L.A. area. And she said, because everybody I know voted for Mondale. Like this is before the internet, of course. Everyone she knew voted for Mondale in her little bubble in Hollywood. So in her mind, she couldn't even conceive of how anyone would vote for Reagan. And so that's what happened to Fox people, thinking Mitt Romney was going to win. I mean, I knew it was going to be, he would be decimated. I mean, I think it was on your show talking about it. I mean, put on Google Trends. Those of you who don't know about Google Trends, you better check it out. That is the true pulse of the world and polling is Google Trends. And that just shows you right there. Ron Paul was popular. Mitt Romney, no one gave a crap about. And where Obama was, you could just see what's going to happen by looking at Google Trends. Anyway, this is the segmentation, the sequestering of our culture. We don't have a unified culture or a unified voice. Even worse so is, and this is not, an old racist thing and Sheriff Joe, but we have the illegals. We have other cultures that come in. We were told that there's something racist, which is also used out of kind. Okay, people don't even know what the word racism means anymore. It's different than prejudice, bigotry. These are different words. Racism does not mean that I don't like rap music. That's not racism, right? We've converted this word and taken it over. That racism means you're racist if you defend one's culture. And at what point is it wrong to defend a culture? Why is it embarrassing to defend a culture? And it's taken me years to get to this point too. I was a student of the world. I've been all over the world. I love other cultures. When I come back and I see American culture, and we have a culture, the problem is Americans don't know we have a culture. I highly recommend that you all buy a book. It's called American Culture. Before I went to school in Japan, everyone had to read it. And the most important part of this book is to realize we have a culture. Because Americans think we're this melting pot and, everyone comes here. And I think that's why people don't have a problem having Mexicans or someone come here and not know the language. Or people come from other religions. We change our whole view of how we do things. We can't say Merry Christmas because we'll offend this group or over here. We have a culture. And I'm using these are low-hanging fruit issues, guys. But I'm talking more as a country. We think differently. We speak with numbers and values. We don't speak with poetry in our arguments. We look to the future, whereas other countries look to the past. And that actually discusses or changes how we make decisions. I'll give you an example. Americans always talk about for the children, right? Why does that work all the time? And I apologize for those who listen to the show. This goes back. It all comes back to this whole Trump movement. But I mentioned on the show there's a famous little thought experiment. I've said it a couple times already. Heard it a few times now. If you come home from you come back from office to your home. And your house is on fire, it's on flames. And in your house, you have your mother and your daughter, and you can only save one. Who would you save? Now, the average American, it's like, what kind of question is that? Save the daughter, right? Because my mom has lived her long life, and my daughter hasn't loved yet, hasn't experienced life, and blah, blah, blah. I don't have to explain. You guys already know that, right? You ask the Asian person, they'll save the mother. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they say you only have one mother. You can always have more children. Now that is a deep-rooted difference in how they look at the world. China, Clinton went after China in the 90s, right? Because China, he didn't want to give him most favored nation status. I don't know if you guys remember that back in the 90s, that whole MFN thing, right? Or MFS, said no. And what was the reason? That's probably not the real reason, by the way, but the reason they claimed was that the way China treated their children. The sweatshops, the evil sweatshops, giving their kids jobs. Can't do that because the way you treat your children, it's for the children. And the Chinese said, screw you. What do you mean? The way we treat our children, we don't do. If we were in the position, we don't want to be favoring you guys because the way you treat your parents, you stick them in senior homes. How dare you? Because in Asia, the seniors, your parents live. You have 3 generations in a house. The most offensive thing that I've heard Asians say about Americans is the fact that when their parents move in with their kids, they charge rent. Your parents gave you life, and you're charging them rent? I mean, that is the most obscene concept to many Asian people. So when I was in Asia, I would go to school. I'd walk to school. I would pass by I don't know how many buildings that were hundreds, thousands of years old. Here, it's like buildings over 30, 50 years old. It's like an eyesore. It's like, rip it down, rip it down. I mean, Savarda's mother, she lives close to, down in Phoenix. She lives in a street, road with some older homes from the 70s, and they went to the government, and they have historic district. Well, it's an historic district, you know. I mean, it's like 1970s house, historic. So, but I understand we're a new state, but it's a concept of how we write our rules, how politicians just throw for the children. Everybody, like a dog whistle kind of thing, just lines up. The brain turns off. We know that. So this is a concept of how our culture is different, and what is the importance of defining a culture? Do we have a right to define a culture? If I was serious with somebody in Japan, was dating someone in Japan, and you know, a lot of the guys all had Japanese girlfriends and this and that, and you know, you would start hearing people who are married and the expats, and you would find out about, well, what does it take to be a Japanese citizen? You know, if you're going to be married, what happens? You know? You guys want to understand how to become a Japanese citizen? You have to, it's almost 10 years of a waiting process. You have to learn fluent Japanese. I speak Japanese, but I mean, you never become fluent. Fluent Japanese. I had to write, and I write Japanese too, but you know, the hiragana and katakana. But you have to learn the kanji, and I learned some kanji, but that's so you can read the newspapers. Because the newspapers are all in kanji. That's like college level. And if you can't read the newspaper in full Japanese, hell, how are you going to be a citizen? Right? You have to learn the history and recite it back to them of 2,000 years, not 200 years like we have, 2,000 years almost of Japanese, all the feudal Japan and all the shoguns and you know, our guys can't even tell you George Washington's name, right? You got to know all the shoguns like this. This is just to be a Japanese citizen, and you try breaking into Japan. Well, you got to swim pretty good, but anyway, but you try to get to Japan. That's just Japan. And we're busy protecting their culture with our ships and our men. That's a culture. So that's what this culture is about. There is a culture. And yet it seems that we feel, the liberals or whoever, the establishment wants to tell us we don't have one and it's not worth protecting. And this goes back to Trump again. What Trump is representing is the last gasp of a culture. Whether you like it or not, maybe we don't like the culture. Maybe we just want this new world order culture where everyone has, at least we all have McDonald's in common in the rest of the world, but you know, we just have some, whatever, this amorphous thing where everyone sits in their box. But Trump is trying to stand up and be that magnet and say, no, you can stand up for a culture and stop being labeled racist, stop being labeled as a prejudiced, bigot, sexist, homophobe, pedophile, blah, 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 for simply saying Merry Christmas. Right? And this is where this anger has come from. And it is a silent majority, and it is a group that's coming out, and he's getting tanked on all sides. This week being the week. They have been waiting for somehow for his voice, his mannerism, something for him to self-destruct. And this week, going all this back to Trump, is where it has possibly collapsed. Some of you know the saying, jump the shark. Some of you guys know what jump the shark means? No. Hey, you guys watch Happy Days? Yeah. You watch Happy? Okay. You guys, just so you know, you can write down "jump the shark." It's a real meme. I think it might be in the Oxford Dictionary by now.
Yeah, I think it is.
Is it? It is. Jump the shark. It's a real deal. So, jump the shark. You guys all love this. It's really quick. Jump the shark is a phrase used when a TV show or a movie star or a political movement or whatever has gotten to that apex where it's all downhill from there. It came from the Happy Days. You guys all had Happy Days. That was on for years. And there was an episode of Happy Days where Fonzie, if you remember, they went to Hawaii, and he got on the water skis, and he wears a leather jacket, and he had his bathing suit on, a leather jacket, and he had to jump over a shark that was in the water, right? It was like a stunt. How many of you guys remember that episode? Yeah, I remember. And some of you remember. Okay, it was like the big, and this is back in Sweeps Week, back in the 70s, and they made a big deal. Fonzie, in this new episode, Happy Days, is going to jump a shark. Will he make it? Oh, Laverne Shirley probably on the side, and the whole bit. Anyway, he jumped the shark, and he survived. The thing is, though, at that moment, it was like, all right, he jumped the shark. Show's done. What else are they going to do? They can't go. It's all downhill from here. Usually whenever they put a new child on a sitcom, you know, when they bring a new kid on the show, they jump the shark, you know. Cousin Oliver on Brady Bunch jumped the shark, you know. It's like, whatever. You can go down, there's whole shows about jumping the shark. Anyway, many people think that Donald Trump jumped the shark this week because of a number of things that just hit at once. By the way, I'm going to kind of finish this other point here. How much time do I have, by the way, so I don't keep rambling? Unlike Ernie, I talk a lot here.
It's 9:36.
20 minutes to the top of the hour. You can go long, but I'd start skipping to the end.
Skipping to the end. Thanks, sir.
We got plenty of video.
We got Q&A, yeah.
Pat's not done, man. He's got to express himself.
I'm looking forward. I'm glad you're here. I really enjoy it. I enjoy chatting with you.
The camera will go another 7 hours, though, so we're fine.
Yeah. You're not with the NSA, are you? No, the showman is, looks like. So
Trump jumped the shark this week.
So Trump jumped the shark. And a lot of it was, I think, the ultimate infusion of the virus to his campaign. You know, all sides, the establishment is trying to take him out, of course. And what's interesting is the establishment doesn't even recognize that they're the establishment. That's the issue again. We sit back and look at the establishment as this, you know, smoke-filled cigar room, and they're all there figuring this out. We see this personification somewhere. The man, the Bilderberg group, you know, there's someone in charge. I'll be upfront with you. I probably disagree with some of the, to that level. I know there's people who are pull strings, but I honestly believe it's not really one person. It's just, it's like no one themselves thinks they're the establishment. It's not like they all sit around and vote and they have the whole pecking order. You're seeing it now with Trump. I mean, the fact that they didn't know how to respond to this guy. If you want to see the establishment, check out a show right now, and you can see what's going on now with this week. I can't wait till the next episode. A show called The Circus. How many of you are watching it? No. How many of you have heard of it? All right. So The Circus, highly recommend to you. It is basically a weekly version of the War.
Showtime.
It's on Showtime. It's on Showtime. There was the movie The War Room. This is a quick aside. Remember The War Room about Bill Clinton's campaign? If none of you saw that movie, check it out. The reason these shows are very similar. The War Room was done in 1990. It was a movie about some documentary makers that wanted to show what it was like running for president in America. So they asked all the candidates back in 1990, wherever it was, 94 election, I guess, Bill Clinton. Anyway, 92. They asked around if any of the candidates, George Bush or anyone, would allow a embedded film crew to just go around and have full access and see everything to make a documentary what goes on. They wouldn't broadcast it until after the election. And they didn't know who was going to win. They went to every person, every primary person. I think it was Gary Hart, remember him? Yeah. I mean, he went asking, of course, he's like, no, I got a girlfriend. I don't want cameras around. But they went to everybody. George Bush, nobody wanted the camera around. One candidate, this unknown candidate, said, sure, I'll take you. His name was William Jefferson Clinton. And James, the Raging Cajun Carvel said, come on over. And this embedded group sat there and just filmed. You see this in this documentary. When Bill Clinton opens his first shop, they opened their first little campaign center down in Arkansas. They just, here we go. They turn the key and they open it up. It's amazing just watching the, I know, for some it's blood pressure again. But to see them just start from day one. Talk about luck. The fact that they picked that campaign was just complete luck. Anyway, The Circus was kind of an extension of the Showtime show. They have embedded filmmakers making a reality show. Well, I don't call it reality, but it's basically filming the campaign process of the 2016 election. And they have cameras showing all the primary people. And most of them are open to it because unlike back then, now they realize that they've been more media savvy. And so they are editing this movie from week to week, showing essentially play-by-play of what's happening behind the scenes. You can watch all the Fox shows, but then to see them actually set up the Fox shows and how they're answering questions ahead of time and all this is going on in the show The Circus. This show was put together last year when they set it up. They had no idea of what this election cycle was going to turn into. So like the luck of the War Room movie, the circus is documenting this astounding race, and I think will be probably the historical time capsule for people in the future of watching what's happening. Anyway, what's fascinating is you see the people in the cigar rooms, the establishment, and they're being filmed. And you saw, we played one of the clips, Ernie, on the show, of them sitting around, all the bigwigs going, how do we handle this Trump guy? And you see the anxiety, you see what their ideas are and how they're stumped. They don't know what to do. So if there's an establishment, where are they all this time? Now, granted, maybe we'll find out with a bullet somewhere, and they're going to, we'll find out somewhere. But I think that this establishment isn't as much as we fear. It certainly exists. It's just, how do you stop it? It's an awakening from people, and Trump, as I said, is bringing it together. But he's getting nailed from all sides, and this week was sort of the combination. Republicans normally would embrace the front runner at this point, and they're not. They're doing everything to stop him. Clearly, they're doing this with Cruz. They're now endorsing Cruz, of all times. You have Lindsey Graham, who said he would never, ever support Cruz, probably for personal reasons. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's probably why he's not. But now he is, all of a sudden. Mitt Romney. Now, who else? Jeb Bush. Scott Walker from Wisconsin, right? Because Wisconsin race is going on right now. The kicker is that they're not endorsing him for president. Right. They're endorsing to vote for him to stop Trump. So these can't even say the words, I mean film. These people are even using Cruz, who I don't necessarily support, because they're saying, look, vote for Cruz just to keep enough votes away from Trump so that Trump will not get the 1,237 votes to get in. And therefore, then they can exercise whatever new rule they come up with and just say, whoop, that whole primary didn't happen. Let's put someone who can unify. And we're not picking Cruz. So, is it going to be Kasich? Probably not. But that's what they're counting on doing. No, it's not going to be Jeb. It's not going to be Jeb. Let me tell you, from what I understand, Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney both have something in common. And that is they both filed their paperwork to be a presidential candidate. Okay?
When did they do this?
Well, Mitt Romney, October, I guess. I know Paul Ryan, I heard, did it recently, but I don't know. I haven't seen the form. This is what I've heard, so for argument's sake, you can check that out. But the fact that they've already been planning this, and I think it was Jeff Golden's Greenspan, I think someone had mentioned some other movement that the parties have made months ago, doing the paperwork for runs or for when they're nominated at the convention. So they're doing that. What else? There's talk about banning cameras from the convention. Surprise, surprise. I can't wait until the media figures that one out when they say no cameras allowed. In today's world, that will be the death knell, I know, to the Republican Party when the Republican base realizes that you're not allowing cameras. That is just going to send the Cruz and Trump people just going packing. But they're going to play that game. Wisconsin, for those who don't know, is probably the last stand for Trump to win full-on 1,237. Okay? So they needed 1,237. Wisconsin represents, and I forget how many electoral votes it is. Some of you guys know.
44.
How much?
44.
44. It's a nice haul. So 44. Wisconsin is like maybe the Waterloo for Trump here, of where he's going to get nailed. Here's why. Those 44 votes act as the buffer that they were counting on the calculations for him to win the 1,237. So there was a certain, what they were assuming is if Trump wins at the rate he's doing now, which is anywhere from 40 to 50%, if he keeps getting that, and Mr. Magoo, John Kasich, and Mr. Magoo, he just, oh, people love me, it's all good. Yeah, no, I'm going to win. So John Kasich, if he keeps doing this thing, and he stays in, which he will, because he's going to lay out the lunch, he's going to keep pulling from Cruz. Cruz, therefore, is constantly under Trump. And so Trump's going to keep winning roughly between a 40-50%. Now, winner-take-all states, he gets automatically those. But the non-winner-take-all states, at 40 to 50%, that means that Cruz will get like another 30%, which means he'll get a very high margin of electoral votes, too, of delegates, that is. So when you add all that out, and you calculate it all the way out to the end, believe it or not, you come out to almost 1,237. I mean, it's crazy. It's like right on the money.
Always.
I know. He always says, "Of course it is."
It's always 50.
But when you, and these are even pro-Trump people, they're saying that it gets to that level. You're getting to that around that number. So you have.
Phranq, is Wisconsin winner take all?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not.
broken up congressional districts. If you win a district, you get delegates, and then if you win the states, you get delegates. Some people think Trump is going to win like 6 of the districts.
Right. So yeah. So he's going to still get some. So good question. Thank you. Thank you. So what happens though is that Wisconsin 44 votes is, and depending how much Trump will definitely get some. The question is how many will he get? That 44 is a buffer of that to the end game. So we know, we can almost calculate exactly, but he's going to get to almost right on the 1237. So getting higher above is going to be the buffer. And Wisconsin is one of those states that they calculated in is they didn't know which way it was going to go, and that is the buffer. So if he wins Wisconsin, he's almost guaranteed to be over the 1237. If he loses it straight out, loses all 44, there's no way, okay? But he's going to get somewhere in between. That's, yeah.
Just an aside on Wisconsin, you brought it up. There's a good chance that Trump is going to win Paul Ryan's district.
Yeah.
The congressional district
That's funny.
is that he's leading in that particular one. Those are over in the south in the western part of Wisconsin. I thought that was funny.
So there's Wisconsin has so much going on.
Yeah.
That is the buffer. So it's all in Wisconsin as they see it. Also, Wisconsin is it's a little in cruise territory. It's some of the Bible districts there. So it's a little bit of cruise. But here's the kicker: is that it is an open primary. This is key. Is that Trump tends to win in the open primaries.
Right.
Cruz wins in the closed primaries. Wow, what does that tell you? Right? When people say Trump can't win in the general, well, like Ron Paul. You know, if they had open primaries and the whole country could vote, we all know Ron Paul would have done a hell of a lot better. I mean, all these Democrats, young people coming out for Ron Paul. Well, this is the movement for Donald Trump. It's just like Bernie Sanders, people who can't vote right now, who want to vote, but the system's been closed. I will be honest, I don't want to get on a sidetrack, but I do go back and forth whether elections should be closed or not for primaries. I really do. I see it both ways, and I have ferocious ambiguity on that question. But anyway.
Closed parties.
Closed
parties create parties. We've got to stop the government creating parties.
Yes.
We don't want government.
Government control it all. Yeah. It's a problem. But Cruz is representing, though, that when you have the closed party of the government, then that's your candidate, and those are the old-timers that come out. But the voice of the people are not being heard, and you're seeing it bubble up in these anti-establishment movements. And anytime it's an open primary, Trump is winning, and Bernie Sanders especially. Okay, Trump wins. Wisconsin is an open primary, so every one so far Trump has won. This one, however, Cruz is in the lead. Cruz is already a few points ahead of Trump going into this open primary. That hasn't happened before. If he loses this one, and because of all the crap that's hit him this past week from all sides, bam, bam, they see the weakness now. It's like you're the alpha dog, and once the alpha dog starts bleeding, and all the minions all of a sudden all pile on at once, that is what happened this week. And they see the blood, and they see the buffer zone of Wisconsin, and they're piling on him, the abortion issue, and the Penn Gate, and what else? Everything else is the Antichrist. They are nailing him from all sides to weaken him in Wisconsin. And each poll looks like he's even losing more head of steam, which means more delegates since it is a partitional race. So if he loses big there, he not only loses the buffer, which means it will be contested, but it's even more dangerous. Because what this means is that there is not another election for about 2 weeks until another super Tuesday or whatever. Like Pennsylvania, all of them come later. That means we have 2 weeks of nothing to talk about on the shows that you guys don't watch, and I do it for you, it's okay. All these shows where it's just going to be bash, 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 and just waiting for Trump to say something, and they're just going to just spin around and do this, and the next thing you're going to see him eating a chicken sandwich, and he hates chickens, and whatever else it's going to be, and they're going to nail him for 2 whole weeks to just submit and get people to finally give up this thing with Trump. I think also what's happening is Trump fatigue, this jump the shark issue we talked about, where I think people, not saying they're tired of Trump as much as they're tired of this whole mess. And I think people are just saying, around now, they feel in their gut, it's been, what, 3/4 of a year of non-stop Trump. You guys don't watch the shows, which is good for you, but every single segment, everyone is Trump. They may break for the weather, they go, and it's raining in a state where Trump is at right now, let's go back to Trump. It's a non-stop. She knows, unfortunately. She yells at me, my better half. She comes in, she goes, you just stop with the Trump, and the news and all this. But I'm watching this country go through this revolution. That's why I'm so engaged with it. But anyway, this Trump thing, though, is this movement, this momentum. This game is often momentum. I guess you guys know that, okay? It's momentum going forward. And if he loses Wisconsin, the momentum going in for the next 2 weeks into the big Super Tuesday will be killed. And it'll be dead. And I think a lot of voters who are okay with Trump in a way, and maybe Cruz, they're kind of on the fence here, but they just want to finally, it's like, pardon the expression, crap or get off the pot. I think for a lot of people, they're like, I got it. I know what they have to say. I don't need another debate. I don't know if I just want to keep hearing all this yelling back and forth and about wives and whatever else. Let's just pick somebody already. And I think Wisconsin was that vote where the people, the fatigue, the vote was all there. Where if Trump had the momentum going in, it would be Trump and it would be decided. You get the numbers, 1237, and it's done. We kind of know we can just relax the rest of the way. But it's not. And all of a sudden, Cruz and everyone's busting on him. So if he loses this, that momentum could carry all the way in. And then it's the perception. If he doesn't get those numbers and he doesn't get the 1237 on a downslide, if it's jumped the shark and the momentum's down and he loses the 1237, that will be the opening for his buddy Jeb. And the establishment to completely steal it, because they will make the excuse that, well, he got the delegates early on when people still believe this crap. Now no one wants it because it's going down. This is the reason we have to save the party even from itself. If Trump, that's what's going to happen. If Trump is able to get the momentum back up again and go into the convention with momentum, then it will be much tougher to do that, whether he gets some delegates or not. They're still going to try and screw him over, and who knows, and we debate on the air about how much they can do with full exposure. That's another issue, and maybe Q&A guys with that. But that is the danger where Trump is at now, being hit from so many sides, and this posturing of the game. After he got hit with was it not the debate, the town hall, whatever that they did, he did speak about that he was not going to support the party because they weren't supporting him. Remember, all the candidates announced that they would not support Donald Trump if he was the nominee. That changed the ball game again. A couple of days later, he's at the Republican RNC in front of Reince Priebus, and they had some talk that was supposedly not about supporting the party. Anyway, this is all happening now. It's very dynamic in its flow. So anyway, I want to wind down here. Trump is really at a crossroads. It's strange I'm saying this now, being that this happens to be the Trump Report live edition. But it is at a crossroads. I think Trump is representing the culture much more than just his views. I think people don't care about what his policies are as much as he's either a last ditch for our culture. It's also, for those of us that know the economy is done, Ron Paul could have fixed the economy, but that ship has passed. Now we're looking at who can just keep order as this economy does finally fall apart. A businessman might have a shot at it. That's how people look at Trump now. And for people like myself, it's not even about his policies. It's about the sticking it to the man. And if you just give me just 1 minute, Ernie, one last thing I just want to point out is why I'm a little different with this concept, not as a pure libertarian. I wanted to start off this talk, but I'm going to end the talk on this point. I told you I came with my grandparents raised me, and my mentor is a man named Irv Homer, who was a radio show host. He was like the Rush Limbaugh back in the East Coast. Not Rush Limbaugh. He was a libertarian, actually, and he had the big market back in the East for 25 years, talk show. I learned everything from him. He was honestly, the only person close to him is Charles Goyette, who I have the utmost respect for. So imagine Charles Goyette on steroids, and that's pretty hard to do. That was Mr. Irv Homer. And
Frank, what years were this?
this was from 1975 until like 1994 or something, that whole area. So I learned quite a bit from him and my grandparents.
She just got nipped by a scorpion.
What's that?
The dog just got nipped by a scorpion. Goodbye.
Did the dog really get bit?
I think so.
Oh, okay. So, just sorry, I'll just finish up quick. Is that there is a difference with myself and a few other people you might know about.
Alex.
And that is Peter Schiff. You guys know Peter Schiff, the son of Erwin Schiff, and Rand Paul, who I was able to meet a couple times. Most of you guys have met him as well. Obviously, son of Ron Paul. And what we have in common, if you notice, is from a libertarian perspective, is that we're not the purists. We tend to be the sellouts that are kind of going with the system. We all have father figures that were the true libertarians. And the sons, Rand and Peter, myself in a way, we are the ones that are trying to go through the system. And some people wonder why. Are we like we fell away from the tree? But I think what it is that we're not first-generation libertarians. Many of you that got into this later in life, or your parents were liberals, you start off liberal, whatever it was, you guys see the anger. You're like, my God, I got to tell the world libertarianism. I want to change the world here. People like myself and Peter, we grew up with this. We grew up with our fathers being laughed at and mocked and kept out. Our presidential candidates have never won. You're a Democrat, half the time your guy wins. You're a Republican, half the time your guy wins. I have never in my life, and many of you have ever had anyone, ever, even come close to winning. Except maybe Ron, and we knew he wasn't going to win. The system was going to keep him out. But that's the anger that's brewing in people like myself. So when all of a sudden it's like, why don't I just join the Libertarian Party and just continue the intellectual discussion? People like Peter Schiff say, I want to win. That's why Peter's like, I'm going to change it from within. That's what Rand is doing. That's what Peter does. And that's where I come from. So I am just like many of you. I don't want to say an evolution of it. Maybe it's just from anger, whatever. But I think as our generation matures, we're going to have second, third generation libertarians, thanks to people like Dr. Paul. And I think the movement might change about better tactics or strategies, or we just go, oh, what the hell, and it'll figure its way out like Mr. Hancock believes, and I probably agree too. So on that note, I'm going to end there, and thank you for your time. I guess we'll take Q&A.
The most recent thing that I wanted to bring up is that I got a call yesterday from a gentleman that a lot of you guys know named Matt Papke. Matt Papke became very involved in the Ron Paul campaign for 2012. Kind of missed the 08 version. The 08 was totally different. It was a lot more anarchist. It was just, the same thing, kind of the Trump deal, a finger to the man, and we're going to have some fun and love evolution. It was a cultural thing. By the time it hit 12, there were a lot of people that started to realize, hey, this could be something. I could sell a lot of t-shirts. I mean, there's always somebody, they're going to make hay with this one way or another. Well, the meetup, Donna and I, we're still administrators on the local Ron Paul Revolution, Liberty, whatever meetup. But, we just kind of, whoever wants to do it, peace out, take care of it. We'll post like the Breakfast Club meetings or something like that, but you guys can run what you want. Well, the group of these guys got together and really took it seriously, became delegates, went to the conventions, go through the process, and they're on their way. Tampa, yeah, we got a plan. We're going to get, Dr. Paul got the number of states, and he's going to give a speech, and the world's going to change. Well, that's the best reason for them not to let it change, is when you're going to really have an impact. Oh, hell no. And they go, no, Ernie, it's at a national convention in Tampa. They're going to have international television, and the limelight's going to be on. They can't possibly do it then. I go, that's when they do it. It's a big giant band, and you know who is in charge? Screw you. They're good. That's when they're going to do it in Tampa, in front of God and everybody, and they're going to change the rules and whatever they're going to do, and that's what they did. He calls me yesterday. He goes, Ernie, I know what you're going to say, but we need your help. If you know an attorney or somebody or something, we're going to, the Arizona Grand Old Party has got a new one up their sleeve. They're going to charge $50 for people to go to the convention to vote and be delegates or have a vote at whatever. Now, this $50
poll tax that they're calling it. I go, well, you got to look at it. Is it a function of a private organization or not? If it's a private organization, they can do whatever the hell they want. But they had the presidential preference primary, which is not binding on anything. It's just a straw poll that they get to do what they want and taxpayer money. But does that have anything to do, is it linked by statute or law or rule in the party with the convention at all? So if you got taxpayer-funded presidential preference of taxpayer rip me off, and somehow it has something to do with the transition into the party of them get there, then you got some standing. Hey man, they use my tax money to do, and you're going to poll tax them. What I go, then you got some standing. I don't care, but I mean, you can do whatever you want. If they have kept it separate because they're savvy to this stuff, because I keep suing them on this stuff, if they go and they say, oh no, we're a private organization, has nothing to do with that, we're private, we can do what we want, what do they want to do? They want to get rid of anybody that doesn't have $50, it's poor Ron Paul kids, or the people that aren't willing to give us the money, or people in principle, or people whatever. They're doing it because they believe it advantages them. Hey, any of our guys, we got $50 for you, don't worry about it. It won't cost their guys anything. What are you talking about, a few $1,000s to take over the state of Arizona delegate? What, you think they don't got that kind of money? At the Trump thing, Thayer Verschuren, okay? He's working with the Trump campaign. Frank's there at Fountain Hills deal, kind of sees what's up, and hey, and how you doing? We're doing this show, and Ernie, oh my God, not Ernie, okay? So these guys are operatives. They're Karl Roves. They're mercenaries for the GOP. And the fact that one of those guys is working inside the Trump thing, you're screwed already. It's like Doug Weed and Ron Paul. These guys, a lot of you guys don't know their history or who they are, what they represent. Hell, Keith probably knows more about Thayer than anybody else. So I'm just going, these guys are operatives protecting the system. It has nothing to do with us. They are mercenaries. They're guns for hire. And while they're being your gun, somebody else offers them a bigger stipend or a future and whatever, well, they're their bitch too. So I'm telling you, this $50, this is just one of the issues. They're going to do more. It's going to be a continuous. In the end of 2009, before the 10 campaign, between Christmas and New Year's in 2009, we saw their $3 million plan of a parallel party here in Arizona with the GOP, a separate group that used the Republican headquarters and their resources and their offices for a totally different group that all the money went to them. And it was headed by Karl Rove. This stuff happens all the time. So when you look at me, Ernie, you don't believe, no, I don't. I already know the decision is made, it's done. So all this is happening to Trump, this Wisconsin thing, it is not the attack on Trump that anybody really cares about. It is to give, they don't have to convince you not to support Trump. They have to convince you that it's all screwed up and you're giving the finger to the man. They just have to convince you that they convinced all your neighbors. They just have to convince you that nobody else voted for him, nobody else supported it. They lost faith. Everybody else did. Once they can plant that seed of doubt instead of everybody going, no, screw you, and we're all lockstep and bite me and we'll take on the Black Lives Matter people, let them beat us in the chest with their sledgehammers of whatever, and kind of we don't care. They just want to take that little, that revolutionary spirit, and they want to erode it enough for you just to believe that they took the wind out of the sails of your neighbors. It's just the implanting of doubt. That's their win. I see it every election cycle, all the time. In 2008, it didn't work with Ron Paul. The reason was because the people were ideological. The people on Trump are not ideological. They're just pissed. They're just against, they kind of, I think that Trump knows this. I would just, think that he's not a total idiot, and that he's got a gazillion dollars that he has not spent yet. If he needs to do something, we don't know what the television ads are in Wisconsin, and I'll guarantee you Trump is not going light. Now, of course, the other guys aren't either, So this is going to be very interesting to me to watch not what happens at convention, not to watch what happens with Trump, not to watch what they do. It's how the people react to it. Because, as Dr. Phranq has pointed out, Trump is a brand. He is there. This is not just Trump. This is Trump's kids and grandkids. His children, his adult children, his daughters and sons, they're sitting there going, hello, we're next. And it's going to be a build-up like you and I can see the dynasty of. I am worried for their safety. I've seen this before. We just had on the front page of Freedom's Phoenix today that article about rigging of elections throughout entire Latin America of 6 dozen countries. This happens all the time, and a lot of times it's just a 47-cent bullet's going to cure all their problems.
Right.
When you have people out there talking about this as an alternative, reporters, they're trying to get something to happen. And I'm going, and somebody just wants to get somebody on the edge to think that he's going to be the hero. I wonder what the left's going to say. Yeah, the hero. They do monuments to the guy that takes out Trump. Don't laugh. You know, that's the idea they want you to get. That's how Sal Sodi Singh got shot. Then they denounce it. Charles Goyette was a big denouncer of that. We've done shows on that oftentimes. That you get this mentality that it's okay to start shooting people. So I look at this totally differently. We are in an evolution towards something that's more global. And Dr. Phranq has done a good job of detailing step by step what's happening. It's just where he and I have a discussion, and I don't want the audience to be misled. Anyone that listens to the show, I don't want them to be misled. Don't worry. In the end, they, them, those get whatever they want and whatever they. Yeah, but they would have to. That's what they'll do. Yeah, but everybody will see. Yep, and they'll do it anyway.
That's right.
An interesting video, if you can find it. 1944 Democratic Convention. Henry Wallace was a VP. He was a heads-on favorite of all the people at the convention. Get a video of that and see how they took the nomination away from Wallace and they gave it to an unknown senator from Missouri, Harry Truman. The shenanigans that went on, literally cutting off the microphone and adjourning it, then the backroom politics, I'll give you this, I'll give you that if you change your vote. It's a masterful piece.
You mean 48 or 44?
44.
But wasn't that FDR's
This
fourth
was for
run?
the VP.
Yeah, this is for the vice president.
Oh, I'm sorry.
nomination.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And that's how Truman ended up getting it, and Roosevelt died a few months
For
later.
VP.
Yeah, okay.
But Henry Wallace was by far the most popular of all the candidates in that. And it shows how the insiders, Jimmy Burns and that, and a few others were able to manipulate the rules, literally closing down the convention when everybody was calling to nominate Wallace on the first ballot. Oliver Stone in his DVD, The Untold History of the United States, has it in there, and it's classic. They show you exactly how it was done.
There was when the Ross Perot thing was going on in '92, there was a gentleman that was a big supporter. He owned a Hallmark shop in Tucson, and he was the one that said, "Ernie, you got to watch Meet John Doe." Meet John Doe's a Capra movie, I think. It was with Gregory Peck.
Gary Cooper.
Gary Cooper.
Yeah.
Gary Cooper. And it was just this homeless guy that a newspaper kind of turned into. It was meetups. It was like Ron Paul meetups around the country. And it was a Donald Trump thing. It was a Perot thing. Well, you watch that and you'll see behind the scenes all this fervor that they get, they use for something later. They don't. These databases aren't, lost on anybody. These are the cookies that they got in the search. And there's a new poll that they had that it is a really good poll that's more like Nolan Charty. It says, should women be able to have legal abortions anywhere? Yes, no, or click here for other. Yes, this, no, under these conditions. You get like another half dozen choices. Pal Gamble sent that to me a couple days ago. He goes, yeah, look where I got 90% And my candidate is the anarchist Darryl Perry, okay, for, libertarian. So I went and took it. Sure enough, Darryl Perry's my guy, 98%, man. Boom. So then you had the next closest guy, whatever, I didn't even look. But the you do this, and it's showing more of these options, but I know what's happening. This is an awesome database. This is people responding. Oh, what was his version of, kind of, let's take a look. They're getting into our head. The more we participate in the system, the more they know exactly who we are and how to market to us and what numbers go into what basket. Then they only have to be perceived as supplying that, and then they get what they want, whether the guy really does that or not, or gal. It's a game. It's a psyop. And when we finally get one candidate of the whole thing gets up and says, oath of office, hell, I'm here to dissolve the federal government. I don't think I'm going to be taking any oath of office. Okay? Ooh, I like that guy. I got to vote? Well, I don't vote for that guy. I mean, whatever. So this is the mindset that's coming. All we're going to do is we'll go Q&A, give you guys around, we'll just go around. Everybody gets to say, comment, yes, I don't want to comment, no. We'll just go to everybody. You get to have your say one time. Okay? And then we'll go ahead and go through, say what you want to say. And the way we do a discussion group that Phranq and I go to is that only he gets to respond. You get one try at it. Nobody else gets to talk. Okay? One person goes, you get to have your say. You get to respond next. So we'll go ahead and do that. I think that'll go. Everybody will get to have, their input. All right, Phranq.
Before you do, I just wanted to comment to what you said, and it's a good point. It's something I didn't say earlier. I think there's so many ways this can go and how they're going to screw us over, screw Trump, which to me is the people. I mean, let's be honest. Is going back to history. You need to look at history. Wendell Willkie, I mentioned that a few times. You guys heard Wendell Willkie, most of you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you say, of course. A lot of people have not heard of
Wendell
him. Check out, if you give some things to look at, C-SPAN did a fantastic 3-hour kind of introspective on him, retrospective, however you look at it, of Wendell Willkie about 3 years ago. This is before Trump was around. You swear to God you're watching the Trump story, okay? Wendell Willkie was Trump 1.0. Give me the parallel, because this is how I think they're going to get rid of Trump if you look at history. He was a businessman who came from nowhere. He came on the heels of 8 years of a liberal in charge during a depression, an economic depression. 8 years of liberal policies, the New Deal. Things weren't changing. The economy was not turning around. And the establishment Republicans were not having any energy, and Roosevelt was in. Wendell Willkie came out of nowhere, and he's like, well, screw the system. And to this day, I think 250,000 people showed up on a 102-degree day in Indiana to support him. And this is before Twitter and the internet. This is just radio. People came out in droves, just like with Trump. Same thing, self-made, and he was not articulate, but he was out there and with the anger. And then he went to the convention. He won. They tried to stop him. He won, and he was the first ever businessman, non-politician, to be the nominee on any party, and he did it with the Republicans.
What year was that for?
1940. And then he lost in the general. He was very close. He almost won. How did he lose? War. The only thing that trumps, no pun intended, the economy, which he was running on, and Trump is also, is war. And the war clouds were coming over Europe, and Roosevelt was already Navy. He was a Navy officer, and he was also in the White House for 8 years. So people were so scared of war at the last minute that they dumped the businessman because they're scared of war, and they put in a president for an unprecedented third term, keep in mind, because of how scared people were, and that trumped, again, the economy. So seeing if Trump makes it to the primary and goes past that, and the establishment dumps on him, leaves him, and goes with Hillary, which I agree with Ernie. I mean, they'd rather have Hillary in than allow a non-establishment to run this. That's how corrupt the system is. And if they're all backing Hillary and they try to get her pumped up, nobody wants Hillary. No one shows up except crickets at her little rallies. Yeah. So when this happens and there's no support, and if Donald Trump can get the momentum and it looks like he could win, really, not the biased polls that they come up with, I would expect a false flag surprise of some kind, because she has been in politics. Her husband was there 8 years. He was a president. They know the people. She's Secretary of State, did a fantastic job, of course. She's been around in the world. And so think about, people might get scared enough to say, you know, let's not screw around with a businessman. We have to grow up here, and it's time to go home to what we're comfortable with. And the establishment is comfort food. That is what people ultimately might go back to when they're scared. So thanks for bringing up the history. You need to know the history. We've been through this. It's same dance, just a different tune. Anyway, we'll start. Thank you.
Can I defer? Because I got to hit the restroom a little bit.
I guess urination counts. I'm a urologist. I'll give you a pass. All right. I already did yours. I guess. All right, go ahead. No?
Well, I think your speech was well done, but I think it's a Pyrrhic speech because I don't think...
I'm sorry, what kind?
Pyrrhic. There isn't any solution to the problem, as far as I can tell. Because I think it's primarily financial, and I think the financial world...
Mushroom cloud.
That's it. I think that's it.
You mean the issue of the country is mainly just the financial?
The world's finances.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't think there's any way we can avoid a huge, huge collapse of the economy.
I completely agree. That last shot, that ship was with Ron Paul. This is about who, I guess from our group, I agree. It doesn't matter who they put in. The next guy, it's going to collapse on. So the question almost is, would we rather have Clinton or someone, and whoever that we want, they get the blame? Because my biggest fear, and not that I care about Donald Trump personally with this, but if Trump gets in, and when the economy goes, they're just going to say it was all him. Of course it was, because he doesn't know what he's doing. And he'll get all the blame, and therefore, like Hitler, it's you throw out the Constitution, you throw out the free market, because you see, the free market failed us. It didn't work, we go over here. That is the ultimate fear. We all share that. My question is, who best can control that fear when it happens? I don't know. I don't see either party doing it. I just look at Trump, of what we have in front of us, as the only glue, perhaps, that could at least, if he's able to unify the silent majority of people, that maybe we won't turn on the Constitution, and which is what the segmented parties will do, whoever gets in. Great point. Thanks.
I've been hearing, Ron Lutters especially says that some of the people he's talking to from the Libertarian Party are saying that the doors to the Libertarian nomination are open to Trump because the Libertarians are already on all 50 state ballots if Trump gets what happened. Have you heard any of that before?
I haven't. I'll defer Ernie just a moment. I have not heard that, but what
That's the chatter going around.
Absolutely, and I could see that happening. I mean, there's the Walter Block, Libertarians for Trump. Ernie and I had a little thing right to the end of the break, and then on the radio show, and then we started arguing out here. We're like, we should have had this on the radio, because my whole thing was, where the hell is the Libertarian Party? I felt like Richard Dreyfuss from Close Encounters. Where the hell is everybody? Who are you people? That's what I felt like. Where's the Libertarian Party? They're incognito. There's nowhere. This is ridiculous. That party doesn't know what it's doing. But I could say, I agree. All 50 states, they're ready to go, and he could go, jump right in. Or maybe he's already done the paperwork. Who knows? Any comments? Have you heard anything like that? What would you think?
Convention's May 30th, I think, that weekend. So he'd have to decide.
We're doing a newspaper for the convention. It'll be in the convention bag of, I don't know, 1,200 bags at the convention. We're going to be focusing more on the international aspects of this movement because I just don't care, And I get a lot of conversation whether I'm going to go or not. Judge Buttrick is going to be going to the national convention. So I'm going, you speaking? Well, I would if I was asked. See if I can get him to be a speaker or something, maybe I'll go. But I'll have my say. The Libertarian Party on a national level has always had the opening where you can. There are certain things that you got to be a member of the party, which means you pay your dues and you sign the I don't advocate the initiation of force doctrine. Well, it'd be interesting to see if Trump will do that. Now, in convention, they could just change and do whatever they want, but that's difficult to do at a Libertarian convention. What happens is you get certain number of tokens. I think it's like 50 tokens that, you get people to give you their token, their delegates. That is what gives you access to run or to participate in the debates at the convention. They are going to be televised by C-SPAN at least. So we just had John Stossel last night had on John McAfee, Gary Johnson, and his kid Peterson, I think his name is. And they all did pretty good. Gary's a Republican. That's I think comparison to these other guys, he may have some trouble. There is a mechanism by which Trump can get on. that he would participate. Whether libertarians would go for that, I don't know. But Trump could easily, just like with all these conventions, he could stack it in some way of going through the convention or encouraging the delegates to vote for him. And they're easily swayed if they can be convinced it's, you know, big finger to the man. So we'll see. But a lot of the delegates and so on are parts of these campaigns. Certainly Gary Johnson is kind of the establishment inside the party. John McAfee has his own IT, we got some money, computer guys, and the other guy represents the Levolution and his alliances with Judge Napolitano. So, yes, you can. I wouldn't count on it. If Trump is going to do a third-party thing or an independent, he needs to do it now. And this Wisconsin thing may be the trigger, and how the party deals with it that may determine that Trump does that. And I'm always been of the opinion that they're going to do everything they can to hold him off from running as an independent because he has the money to do it. But it's a time thing. They have to push him back so far that it's a waste of time. And when you see guys like They're for sure, you know, in part of his thing in Arizona, I'm already worried. Because it's those kind of guys that are going to be the, you know, the poison pill inside. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, he could. I don't know if he should. Independent probably be better, Jim.
But the thing is, thanks. I just figured who better to answer that question than Ernie on that. But keep in mind, I'm back in the East Coast again. The Howard Stern show. Many of you don't know, Howard Stern ran on the Libertarian Party for governor, and they took him in. Was Howard Stern a philosophical libertarian? No, he was a finger to the man. They stuck him right on. He ran for governor, and he would have won. The only thing he asked was that he had a Howard Stern bathroom named after him on the highway, and you know, he got that one. But otherwise, but he ran it. He could have stayed, and he actually won. The only reason he stopped was when they said he had to file his finances, show his financials. He's like, hey, this is for fun. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, let me tell you the inside story on the Howard Stern thing, because we were closely involved with that. The campaign manager for John Buttrick, who ran for governor in '94, is a woman named Tamara Clark. It was on the Libertarian National Committee. She was the one that was tasked to go to Howard Stern and convince him, you know, hey, man, you sure you want to do this shit? We don't love you. Well, she liked him. She's like, hell yeah. Yeah, but he wrote this book, you know, Private Parts. You go, hell, man, most congressmen haven't even read a book, you know? So the thing is that, you know, you talk to him, and he did one thing that I used later that almost got me in some big trouble with running for sheriff, and Arpaio was freaking out, and this is back in the early 2000s when we first started doing the show, and it was this. Howard Stern says, you know what, I'm going to run for governor, and my big thing is one thing. No fixing the potholes during the day. Why the hell are we fixing potholes when we're rush hour traffic? Fix the damn potholes at 2 o'clock in the morning.
You're here.
What the hell? One issue, that's all he wanted to do, he would have got elected on that.
Yeah.
The Libertarian Party did everything they could to try and stop him.
Oh.
Inside, it was a big effort to stop Howard Stern because of the perception that they had of they wanted to be the country club libertarian types. And don't ever forget this. In the 1980 campaign for president, it was Ed Clark, I think it was Ed Clark, and the VP candidate was one of the Koch brothers. They spent $1 million or whatever on doing a block of time for a commercial that ran on ABC, NBC, CBS at the same time in prime time. Look, we're here. That was the year they got 1 million votes. Oh my God. Well, the Libertarian Party and convention wouldn't go the route that the Koch brothers wanted, and it pissed them off. So that's where Cato came from. Cato was filed and started as an opposition libertarian-esque think tank against the machine outside of the Libertarian Party. This is when you have Reagan saying he's libertarian in Reason magazine. This is him, Cato says, Cato, Cato, Cato. There's all this Koch money. So the Libertarian Party has always had strings attached back and forth with the Cato group and, well, the Koch brothers. So don't ever think that the Koch machine does not use the Libertarian Party when it wants to. That, for $100,000, you can buy yourself 50 state ballot status and doing whatever the hell, and when it's to their advantage, they're going to do it. And it may be this convention cycle, and I'm telling you, it's all a game. It's a private club, no matter which one of the party, all the parties, the Greens,
You ain't in it.
and you ain't in it.
That's right.
George Carlin, okay?
That's right.
It's a private club, and you ain't in it. So it's easy for me to go from the beginning, when he's doing this, Hillary's going to jail, man. Big God, Hillary's going to jail. Hillary's going to jail, and Jeb is never going to whatever. And I go, nope, it's going to be Hillary Bush. Hillary Bush. And the reason I say that is because I can look into the end, and I know the people and players involved. The Bush-Walker machine since forever, and Hillary Rodham Clinton. Why do you say they think they say Rodham all the time? It was her dad. He wanted the president as a son, and Hillary qualified. So this is going to be, Bush Clinton. So that's why I'm saying Jeb. Will it happen? I don't know. But it's going to be interesting. You start hearing his name pop up, and you're going to be thinking Ernie, I guarantee you that.
So, real quick though, what's your name, sir?
John.
John, and your name?
Mike.
Mike and Les. I'm just, as we're going around, I just want to get your names. I don't know all your names offhand. So, okay, well, thanks for the question.
Hillary was co-president for 8 years. Is she still eligible?
Yeah, co-president. I thought she was president, actually. Yeah. So yeah, I still remember when Bill Clinton won. You remember when they got out of the limousine during their tour going to the White House, literally on Inauguration Day, and normally the president, the first lady, the new first lady, they walk hand in hand. Do you guys remember this? And all of a sudden Hillary basically ran away from Bill's hand, and she started walking ahead of him towards the White House. It's true. It's a true story. So she actually got into the White House ahead of Bill. I'm going. That's a true story. You should just watch the video. Any question? No? No, wait, it's going around real quick, Murphy. So going around first. Sir, what's your name? No, do you have any question? Okay, no? Okay.
Is there any chance that Trump could be playing like a double-sided thing here to take all the anger of the Ron Paul groups and just be bullshit? Because his quotes are so left and right and totalitarian, libertarian. He just says whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah,
I just wonder if he's just taking the anger and pissing it off,
Like he's like an inside player trying to play a game,
Yeah, because he hangs on to work. I mean, he's hard.
No, I think, and Ernie was, I appreciate, he was mentioning something I told him on the show. Back then, Keith, Biker Keith, he shows up on our show times. What's the last name? Cernick, thank you. He mentioned the same thing. People thought this may have been just a ruse from the beginning. One of the reasons we've had fun on the show is I said in the very, back in June, July, that if Trump ran, he would basically just blow this whole system apart. It's going to be a hell of a race. To me, in my belief, and I've made this bet with Keith here, that if he wins the primary, he will win the general. I've said this on the air since June or July, and I've stood by. I think we have $1 bet on the line we keep talking about. And I know, and I think he's not just going to win. He's going to win by maybe in a landslide, but a healthy margin. There won't be any doubt that he won. That's my belief. I've said this from day one. Keep in mind, this is early June when people didn't think he'd even be running more, and then when he did, he wouldn't last a week, and they would just laugh him off like the Huffington Post. So that's when the context of when I said this. People thought, oh, well, then when he started gaining steam, oh, well, it's just a little fad, and besides, then maybe he's just an inside player. What I pointed out on the show last year was that Trump is a brand, and like Ernie was echoing here too, is that it's a brand of a dynasty. This is for his kids. He's going to be like the Kennedys, is what he's planning on. It's a whole system that he has set in place. That's number one.
International.
Also, international. Yeah. He's building up Panama. I mean, New York City too is in Panama. That's a whole expat community where all these buildings are. They're already ready for the people leaving the country. So to think that Trump doesn't understand the financial straits are on, I think he downplays that too. I think he's just over and above most people's heads with this. But Trump is a brand in a sense that he won't do a Ross Perot and bail out or such. Trump's brand is success. You guys, he changed his name to Trump. You guys know his real name was like Dumpf or something like that. It's Drumpf. It's a German name, Drumpf. And he changed it legally to Trump, or his father did. So it's a brand right from the beginning. And everything about him is, his model wife and his kids all lined up like this, and the gold chandeliers, and just everything. It's success. you know, when he builds buildings, people talk about he doesn't really build the buildings, and he's right. I mean, my family understands this. This is what they do as subcontractors for buildings, is that what he does is he pools all the money, right? So he gets all the players. He gets the architect and the steel builder and the steel erector and the designer and, you know, the money people, and he knows how to grease everything and get everyone together, and then he puts his name on top for a premium because he's the glue that holds it together. It's a brand. So it's not like he's the guy that actually makes the steel for it. Who cares if people don't like him? But if you tarnish the brand of Trump, that means it's a loser, or it means that he quits, or he does a Ross Perot and goes, well, you know, I'm all afraid for my life and my daughter's life, remember, for the wedding or whatever. I'm going to bail. No. Trump's about strengthening a brand. That's why I said in the beginning, he's going for the end. He is not going to just turn around from this. This is him. He's committed. And that's another reason why I gave him a lot of respect for where this was going to go. This was not a pull ejectors, you know. But yeah, no, it's definitely a good question. The thing about him speaking, though, and this is where he's getting nailed now, is that he's popular because he speaks what's on his mind, and people like this. This is what's a kicker. People are nailing him because he's speaking the truth, or they say he's not talking about policies. Well, I'll be honest, I don't hear anyone else talking about policies either. They really aren't. John Kasich, I mean, Mr. Magoo, you know what his policy answer? He's got the policy, Magoo here. And guess what? Every time.
Put him in a room.
He goes, sister, yeah, he goes like this. He goes, hey, over here. He's on the side of the debate. He goes, hey, sorry, man, he's got the camera. He goes, hey, wait my turn. I know they're all talking about what they're going to do about the debt and all, but wait till you get to my idea. And here is, wait. Okay, cameras are on me. All right, John Kasich, I'm going to tell you how we do it in Ohio. Yeah. Now I've got your attention. I know how it's done. We're going to take the people who are involved, put them in a room, lock the door. There we go. There's the policy. And then we're going to get an answer. That's how we do it in Ohio. They ask about the nuclear race. They ask about any question. That's how he does it. Anyway, there's no real policy, but people perceive that they have policies and Trump doesn't. The thing is, we think there's policies because our brains turn off. The minute a politician talks, or Cruz in his preacher mode, where he begins talking and then takes a breath mid-sentence, so when he ends a sentence, he can start on another sentence and then go on from there. I mean, what this whole trick he does, when they talk, your brain turns off. On his show, they did a medical scan of voters, Democrat, Republican. They put them up on like EEGs, and they sat there and they watched Trump. And every other candidate, it was like almost flatline, like this. They were talking. When Trump, bam, it went up. Even people who hate him, it goes up. There's something in the brain people respond to automatically. So, you know, he's speaking from truth. And the truth often, his message is, I don't have the answers to everything. And you know what? I'm not going to BS you. I'm not going to tell you that I have the answer yet. How could I have the answer? Because I haven't been in there yet. And my job is to get in there, and like a businessman who comes in, does a corporate change, I need to look at the books. Show me the books. I got to see the books, find out who the players are, find out who the toxic people are, give me a spot, and I will start rearranging this corporate structure. That's what he wants to do. You can't sit back and say, but what's your view of whether or not abortion should this and hypothetical that? And because he doesn't have a whole checklist of package responses that we're used to, when he doesn't give you one, people say, aha, he doesn't have an answer. Aha, he's not qualified. No, what he's qualified is that he's not going to BS you. He can tell you what you want to hear. Like comfort food, he can tell you, you know, like these Cruz Kasich platitudes and that we're used to. They say all the stuff you want to hear, but it's meaningless. Keep in mind, they're the executive branch. It's not the legislative branch that people always keep confusing the two. You know, the president's not the king, although we can argue on that one. But anyway, yes, I don't think this is a ruse. He means it, and the reason he doesn't always talk out of turn is he's speaking from the heart. But his message really is, trust me as a person. When I get in, I will be here and I will show you. And last point on this is the fact that he gets himself in trouble. I think he's tapping into that reality gene. We want to see what goes on behind the scenes on The Bachelor. We want to see what happens when you've got 20 women and one guy and seeing them all kill each other. We want to see what goes on behind the scenes. That's what reality is about. He's taking that and bringing it to politics. He's saying, using the technique of reality television, I am going to make this transparent using a model that we're familiar with now that I helped create. The Apprentice, which is his ultimate job application. That's what the Apprentice TV show was. He's been applying for a job showing us how he works and how he picks and chooses people that he would appoint. He's showing how he does it. That's what this has been about. It's the most ultimate meta game I've ever seen in politics. It's brilliant in a sense. But that's what he's asking for. And I think these commentators don't get it. They keep trying to play by the old rules of, yes, but let's play a gotcha over here, and a hypothetical. And you didn't answer it quite this way. Anyway, thank you for that question. Next.
Well, one point I want to make about that is that how many people watched him on the Apprentice show? Tens of millions, what? It's like 60 million or something like that. I mean, it's some ungodly amount. I don't know, a lot, okay? Around the world, he had an audience. If you combined on the peak weeks, MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News all together, maybe they'll break 10 million, okay? They're normally from 6 to 9 around in there. I think their highest ever in the past year has been 11 or something like that. So let's say 10 million out of 300 and whatever million people there are, and the voters that they got. It's like, who cares what they say? Their whole mindset is just enough to plant doubt in your mind that what they say is the opinion of the public, when what they're really trying to do is to change the opinion of the public, or define it. Sooner or later, and the internet has changed us a lot, the youth have changed us a lot, there has been, the one thing that you see is the age and the demographics of the people in support of Trump. It's very widespread, very American, very nationalistic, very, even the blue-collar, Democrat, Republican, rank-and-file kind of middle America thing.
Libertarian.
And yeah, a lot of libertarian, but it's not so much the youth. They're over at Bernie, but I can see the youth and the libertarians and the Ron Paul types, sitting out here. Any support they give of Donald is really just exposing of a system that they've already experienced. And they're echoing a lot of these things that have happened. So the thing is that I am of the opinion there is going to be an after to this whole thing. Yeah. There is not a doubt in my mind that Trump will not allow his brand to be damaged. And he will get his, whatever that is. So they go, well, what do you think's going on when Trump first started running? My first comment was this: I guarantee that Trump already got what he wants. What's that? I have no freaking idea. But he did not start this without already an end game in mind. What does he want? I don't know, but I guarantee you he's already got it. He's going to go towards something. So you need to watch Meet John Doe.
And real quick too, what's interesting is watch his daughter. His daughter just gave birth. She now is playing the good cop. She's playing the softer image on all the media for Trump. So therefore, she's playing she's a woman. She's very poised. So she's taking over the corporation and keeping the Trump brand separate from Trump, the politician.
I wouldn't be surprised if she goes for VP. Yeah. Don't laugh.
No, she can run again.
He's like, go ahead, shoot me. You get her. She'll kick your ass. Okay? There is such a higher level that's being played here that we don't know about. That's my opinion.
The problem is that people still think that Trump is this boorish caricature that he's played all this time. They don't get what's underneath that. That's what I've kind of tried to bring up from day one with him, maybe because I understand him from other reasons. But there's something much deeper, and people keep thinking he's this buffoon who's boorish and doesn't get the game. I think he does. He's always playing a few levels ahead. One way he's able to play is that he doesn't get bogged down by the system. Whenever a decision needs to be made by the establishment, how do we stop Trump? We have to have a committee. We got to have to do this. We have to figure this out and have an advertisement come up with these slam ads. Trump just goes, I don't want anyone to talk for me. I speak for me, and here's my tweet. And so he is bypassing the system and getting ahead. So every time the system tries to checkmate him, he just goes above them, and that's how he's able to beat them, and quite cheaply, I may add. Yeah.
I feel like Trump talks to the disenfranchised, and I feel like they're trying to pull the disenfranchised back into the system. Vote. Mm-hmm. I almost voted.
Almost. Wow, that's like
that last Tuesday, Tuesday a couple weeks ago, whenever it was. Almost. And then I thought, to hell with it, I'm going to work.
I'm going to do something for
I had to wait in line 5 hours.
We're going around. We're getting back there.
So, yeah.
Okay, Frank, did you have anything to say?
Yeah, you made a little comment about England and other places, and Ernie just made a comment about 60 million people worldwide. How is this playing in the other parts of the world?
Well, matter of fact,
it depends who you're listening to.
Yeah. I played a clip. It was a really good clip. I was thinking on CNN actually, and it was a who was the name of that British reporter? You know his name?
Piers Morgan?
Oh God, no. No. It was a really good reporter, and he was really English. You just look at his teeth; it was all over. Anyway, but it was a classic. It was just he was a brilliant guy. It was just, you realize he was really from England. But the thing is, they were asking him about his view, and he was talking about, that's what I was mentioning to you guys earlier, the anti-establishment movement over there. How the Europeans are going through, or England is going through the vote of the century. Do we pull out of the Eurozone or not? It's huge.
Oh, that's right.
And what's happening is Obama is trying to make a visit to England before the vote.
Nigel Farage.
And what was his name?
Nigel Farage.
Nigel Farage, right, Nigel Farage. Yeah. And so he said, look, Mr. Obama, President Obama, you're welcome to come to England, but please come after the vote. We don't need your influence right now because we're going through an identity crisis ourselves, and it is. So this is, and this is probably a whole larger topic, and Ernie's show just represents it, but there is this cultural revolution, I said. The Arab Spring is part of it. We probably have all sorts of examples, but it is happening around the world. I mean, it is a smaller place. Back in the day, how much for us to call long distance, how much were long distance calls? Now, and I hate to tell you as a physician, but I play video games, Mortal Kombat on my 3D HD. But anyway, you play Mortal Kombat, you put on headphones, and I'm playing some 12-year-old in China. China. I'm sitting there playing, and I'm hearing people talking, and from Russia, and that's what people are doing. I mean, long distance, I'm talking live and saying, take that, or rip their head off in Mortal Kombat, this kind of thing. I mean, it's a whole nother world of communication of a small world, and these boundaries aren't there. And that's what the conservatives, especially liberals, didn't get with the Ron Paul campaign. They still think people watch Fox. They still think that Bill O'Reilly is the new, Walter Cronkite. Republicans still think that that's what people are watching. And Ernie, and I'm not just being funny saying this, but as an older gentleman, but Ernie is so far ahead of anyone his age to be able to understand the technology and see the changes, because the young people get that. They're already playing, they're playing baseball, and the old people are still on the basketball court or something. Like, there's a whole nother change. And so they're getting their news from Al Jazeera, or YouTube videos, or from each other, or whatever. Now, is it always good? Is getting your news from Facebook, which people get their news from now, is that healthy? Probably not. But they're not in the cycle of the echo chamber that Fox is, where the same 6 people just comment, so what do you think about the news? And then he asks him, and then he asks me, and we go around in circles, and people think they're getting fresh opinions. It's out. So the world is all finding new ways of information, and I think trying to sort through, how do we organize this information? How do we come up with a new hierarchy? Who trumps who? Like paper, scissors, rock. It's like that in medicine now. Not to put another topic, but I'm an integrative naturopathic physician. So as an example, you have, if you have a cold, you first test for strep, and then you do this and you do that. If you want to be alternative, you start here and you do this and you do that. If you want to be integrative, you got to pull them together. And the trick for our whole profession is, what do? You do the herb, then you do the conventional test, and then you do this herb, and then you do this antibiotic. Well, there's not a book telling you how to integrate these two. And that world is what's happening everywhere, especially around the world, and with no borders. So thank you for that question.
Trump Apprentice has a low of 7.6 million to 20-something million U.S. But it's around the world too, so it's a lot.
$70 million a year.
Ma'am, what's your name?
Linda.
Linda.
Yeah. I have probably a dumb question. I've never heard of the Trump report before, and I'm wondering how do you access it? Is it on the internet, the radio, or what?
It's our radio show. Declare your independence, Ernest. You go to freedomsphoenix.com. I have a 9 to noon Eastern, Monday through Friday show since '03. You know, we've been doing radio for a long time. And last July or so, Phranq, we're good friends we've had him on the show, different stuff, you know, talking about medical things and so on. And he came to me and he said, don't hate on me, you know, but I want to talk about this Trump thing. I know it's going to happen. So I want to come on and do, you know, the Trump report on Thursdays. I can take a couple hours and my schedule works. We'll do that. And he goes, you know, what do you think? I'm like, hell yes. You know, I'm going to have me some fun because I just, you know, whatever. It's going to demonstrate what we knew was going to happen. So every Thursday he's come on. We've done probably like 35 shows. It's been over 50 hours of scheduled time. And we've had bonuses. So it's been over like
60, she said.
Yeah, like 60 hours every week of us, you know, going cumulative of talking just what you heard now. This is a summary today of all this last year, in the last year and this year, talking about this subject. So this next week, this Thursday, will be the update on what happened in Wisconsin, the rule changes and different stuff. It's all the stuff for that week. So it's not necessarily pro-Trump, although everybody calls and emails me and asks me, so is Phranq endorsing Trump? Is he voting for him? And he's like this close.
He's wearing a T-shirt. He goes, with a mask.
Yeah, he brings in the mask and the hat.
And
drinking the Kool-Aid.
you got to get the mug.
Oh, yeah.
Get the mug.
Oh, yeah.
This is...
I'll go get it.
I'll go get it. All right, so... And, sir, go ahead.
He's got it.
Oh, there's Keith. I got sort of a question, but first let me introduce the question a little bit.
What's your first name again?
Michael.
Michael. Okay, thank you.
I have an old friend. He's an 80-year-old Dutchman that lives up in Seattle. He's retired. He's a world gold expert. I mean, he's really an expert on what's happening with gold. And anyway, we usually have a cocktail party on the phone every Friday afternoon, and so we just talk about what's going on. And I called him up yesterday, and he was almost in tears. I said, "How you doing?" He said, He says, "I just watched watched several hours of all the news programs on Friday." And he said, "They're all totally destroying Trump." He says, "They're destroying him." I said, "Yeah." Yep. Yep.
Wilson knew.
And I said, and also realize they're a minority opinion, right? You already know that. Yes, I know that. I said, and they're jumping the shark. He said, what? I said, they're creating a unified reaction that is so over the board that everybody's going to see it. They're decloaking. The Klingons are decloaking. We can see it.
They took their shot, but they exposed themselves.
Okay, now, and then I listened to Alex Jones and his interview with Roger Stone, and they're sitting now in the internet with an audience of millions.
Roger Stone or Oliver Stone?
Roger Stone.
Roger Stone.
And they're sitting here telling everybody, right out in plain view, we're organizing the world's massive demonstration to take place in Ohio to pull down the Republican establishment if they try to block Trump. So now, are you tuned into this level of the dynamics of what's going on?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And this is the part of the establishment is only now starting to understand. They have ignored the silent majority, and I'm going to address the Republicans in a moment. Democrats, it was interesting. There was a gentleman who wrote a book he was interviewed on CNN. Okay, so it was all a liberal show here. His liberal book was it was called What Happened to the Party of the People. And he was commenting about Trump. He said that the Democrats helped create Trump. And he said it's fascinating that the Democrats used to be for the working man. It was for the common man. But they're admitting that the Democrats themselves have lost touch with their own people,
Absolutely.
and the Democrats have become now of the elite. I mean, we hear that term, but they really have.
Absolutely.
They're part of the professors of the colleges that are really government workers, right? Because we get student loan money, that's a government worker, a college professor. And then they're in the media, and they're telling us how to think, and in Hollywood. So the top fruit, I hate to use that term, but the people, meaning in the society where they're plugging into our brains and our eyeballs, they've become the liberals telling us how to think. But the common man that they used to represent, they've forgotten. The Republicans were for the so-called rich 1%, and that's a whole lie. But anyway, it's like that, you know. And then the Democrats were all for the little man, but the Democrats have lost sight of that base. And so it's interesting, and these are the liberals talking. They said, we've become what we always hated. We're becoming the Republican. Because all of a sudden now, you know, Trump is demonstrating, he's getting Democrats switching over, independents switching Republican. The unions, the old Reagan Democrats. Ronald Reagan already did this. They're saying the common people, and Trump tapped in. So how is it as a Democrat, can Republicans be the party of the people, of the lower man, the working man, and now the liberals are the high and mighty 1%er. He said, "My God, this is like a nightmare." So
but not Bernie's faction.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, some of the professor types, the free speech zone liberals. But no, I agree. As far as the conservatives, though, they have not seen this either. The arrogance of these people, I know, it's an oxymoron in this group, arrogant Republican establishment, but they still don't understand why this movement is there.
They don't care.
They don't. Well, you said they don't care, but they also don't see it. It's like out of view, out of mind. They haven't seen it. I said to Ernie, I don't know if you saw that email I sent you. I was able to find the official report from the RNC after the 2012 election. So it turns out after the election, a committee gets together and says, let's have a debriefing of what happened. It's like a 100-page, official thing with PowerPoints and the whole deal. And they go through item by item about how we lost, how we did in demographics, how we can change for the future. And this is an inside journal here, and they're talking about how, well, we have to basically, suck up to illegals, and we have to go over here. And in their mind, they honestly don't still get this anger of why people are leaving the party. They don't even see this. And so when the silent majority comes for Trump, they're still, where are they coming from? They think that these are somehow new voters, that they're just a bunch of hateful people. No, these are the voters that stayed home with Bob Dole and, John McCain and Mitt Romney and every one of these milquetoast candidates they put up. And when they lose, they think it's because we're not doing enough of the policies that they keep wanting to do. They don't get that we, the people, the silent majority, are the foil. We're like this windbreaker behind, like the parachute, trying to slow this train before it goes off the cliff, and they can't even see it. They're like, let's keep going. Like, the whole thing is full of magoos. That's what John McCain is. He's the establishment magoo. Some of them know what they're doing. That would be the top establishment. But I think for those that really get it, because if they're part of the military-industrial complex, they're the ones that really have the money. They're the ones that we talk about, the, smoke-filled room. But most of the Republicans who are establishment, they don't even know there's an establishment. They think they're doing God's bidding. I know them because unfortunately, again, thanks to you, because you guys keep your blood pressure down, I go to the precincts, I meet these people who, oh yeah, it's all about John McCain. Mitt Romney's going to save this country. They honestly don't see. They don't realize that their own party is keeping out third-party votes. They don't understand. One last point on that. I said in my longer talk, one area I didn't get to mention. Do you guys happen to know why third parties are not shown in the televised debates? Do you guys happen to know what the game they played?
Because they got a presidential
election committee. Well,
of Republicans and Democrats.
Well, this is what happened. You guys, people say, yeah, but we had Ross Perot. This is a very key issue to understand the game. Remember in the day, way back when, the presidential debates were hosted by the League of Women Voters. Yes. Remember that? Yeah. League of Women Voters. This is a fact. They always had they would have the candidates together. If you wanted to be a third party and be in, you had to meet whatever requirement that they had. And of course, they would just change the rules all the time. Every time the bar was here, libertarians, the third party, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But they would sit there and they would they would find the bar and get over it with the debate about do we take federal matching funds and all that. That's another story. But how do we, because they keep moving the bar, right? So sometimes every time they got close, they would miss it, they would sue. Every single time the libertarians would win the lawsuit, but it was always settled after the election. They'd say, oh, you were right, sorry, penalty, to the Republicans, rinse, repeat. Well, the bar was set to a certain level, and then the other Trump, Ross Perot, shows up, and he says, what's the bar? What's the bar? Got to put the cow back in the barn. Okay, what's the bar? All right, bam. Paid for all the numbers, the signatures, whatever they needed, and he leapfrogged so far ahead that they couldn't stop him. So he met the requirement, and the League of Women Voters said, well, Ross Perot did meet the new requirements. He did. And the League of Women Voters allowed Trump, well, basically said, what do we mean allow? He meets the requirements. Perot gets in. And the DNC and the RNC both said, you're not going to have him in there. You don't put him in there. We don't want him. And the League said, well, what do you mean? He met the requirements. Of course. They were going at it like crazy. Finally, the League said, we are going to put Ross Perot in, but we're going to make a statement about what you people, both you groups, did. And you can find it online. The League of Women Voters put out this official notice saying that both parties tried whatever to keep out a third-party voice. League of Women Voters, God bless them. He was in, and of course, what happened. Clinton got in, however you want to look at it. Well, next election, immediately what happened? They fired both parties, the League of Women Voters. That's why you guys haven't seen them before. And what did they do? They decided to create something new called the Presidential Selection Committee, like Cartman says, Presidential Election Committee. And it's founded and it's co-chaired, by the way, by two people, the ex-head of the RNC and the ex-head of the DNC. And they come together and they decide on the Presidential Election Committee. And you think it's official. It's like the Federal Reserve. It's not federal, there's no reserve, but people think this is some government agency that puts it together. I sound like Ernie. But that's how they did it, and that's why you won't have a third party in. So I just want to get that across about how it's changed already to keep this establishment. Ernie's right. They keep getting more and more desperate and doing more things that are more obvious. But now with cameras and YouTube, and this is our argument, at some point, the average American is going to see the corruption right in their face. And we're seeing it now when Bernie's supporters now are only about superdelegates.
Just
doesn't matter, as I said.
See, when you know this, a lot of people don't know. In 1990, I ran my first campaign just to get standing to challenge 44 election laws all the way to the Ninth Circuit. I'm before the Ninth Circuit arguing in 94, I have an argument and you guys all suck and, whatever. And what I realized by that time, most of the changes that I got in Arizona law was not because of any constitutional argument, or it was just the PR. Because I had a government number, because I'm making this argument, because it made the paper, because everybody's going, damn. Just a couple of days ago, I got called by an attorney out of Washington, D.C. that's filing suit against the state on the issue of libertarians getting on the ballot, all this ballot stuff. They're filing all these briefs and need standing and affidavits from people that have run before, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm talking to him, and of course he's representing Democrats, but they're not going to challenge the system. They're going to challenge, well, they did the system wrong and it's not fair. And I'm going, fair to whom? The voters, the individual rights of humans? I mean, kind of, or is it to the party? I mean, what's your angle? So I will see if I participate or not, because I wanted to make sure that, certain things were brought up. And if they're not, you're just supporting this system that's going to screw us anyway. Because when they go into these conventions, they do all this stuff. After Watergate, nobody was given money to the parties. Right now, the Republican National Committee, because of all the controversy that's going on, a lot of the corporations that would help and so on are not funding it anymore. They're saying, no, we're not playing. That's what happened after Watergate, and why you had this two-party system as opposed to, a nonpartisan system, which is the way you get a 501c3, the League of Women Voters. It was to be nonpartisan. Well, they even on their site, they're saying, we're bipartisan, we do bipartisan, Arizona bipartisan, we're bipartisan. Well, when they did that, we were like, oh yeah? Well, here's the lawsuit. Because it is not to be bipartisan, support the two-party system. It was supposed to be nonpartisan. You know, since when we got this two-party system, might as well just be statist, communist. We fought decades of a Cold War to prevent these parties of the state. So that's what this whole argument has been about. It's always going to come back to that sooner or later. It's going to come. That's the only salvation is that the machine and the parties and the government is going to have is that they have legitimacy. That we're here to represent the individual. It's a Declaration of Independence. The whole purpose of government to defend the rights of the individual, for them to have, you know, protection of their life, their liberty, their pursuit of happiness. Heck, oh my God, their property. So you know, I'm going. This is a fundamental change that we're waiting on. All of this stuff is just steps to that awareness. And it's already happened with the generation next. These young guys, they so freaking already get it on so many levels. But what they're doing in the parties and all this stuff now is whatever they can get away with. They will change any and everything to do it. What's after? I don't know. But I don't see Trump brand just letting this go. There's going to be an army of after.
There's going to be a reckoning.
Yes.
One way to go.
Say, who's next? Mike.
Yeah, just to, Dr. Phranq, what do you think the outcome of this election is going to be? And if Trump does win the election, do you think he'll be assassinated?
Could you speak up a little bit?
Will Trump be assassinated if he wins the election?
He was asking, I appreciate it, he was asking, what do I think the outcome will be? And if he does win the nomination, or if he wins overall, will he be assassinated ultimately? You know, I'm not stupid with it. I would not be surprised. I'll just put it that way. And I mean that sincerely. I can't be that surprised if he does.
Is that a bulletproof man?
Yeah, there we go.
Now this is Frank's, Dr. Phranq Trump Kool-Aid.
Yeah, this is
when he first started doing the Trump report. Gary sends us into the show. He had to have that.
So he thought he was going to sit there and get me. And point taken. But the beauty is, Donna makes her bulletproof coffee for me every time. So I love it. This is that's right. He has a picture with me with his little work of art. So yeah, thanks, Gary.
The assassination of.
I think that if Trump does not get the nomination, however, and there's all kinds of ways they'll try and screw him over. I think it's kind of a difficult thing. I think would he go third party, maybe jump the Libertarian Party, probably just go straight on his own, because I don't think he wants to be under anybody. I think he'd rather go third party, even not on all 50 states, and say screw it, just to screw the Republicans, take them out. Yep. I think that was a good way to go, because the economy will fall apart on the Democrat, and then Trump can be the savior and try and fix it. I mean, assuming they don't kill him in the meantime doing that too. That's number one. Number two is if they take him out, or if whatever, I do believe, and I agree with Ernie with this, his family's being set up to be the next level. I mean, his one son, I forget which one it is, I mean, they're calling him a natural, and people are really loving him. His children, if there's one thing that most people who are on the fence with Trump, they say, is you can tell about a man's truthfulness or who they really are by their children. And despite all of his bluster, people are saying, you can't get a family like that. And I don't mean like he bought his wife from like Hungary or whatever. I mean, you know what I mean? You know, that family, he doesn't allow them to smoke. He doesn't allow them to drink alcohol. None of that is in that family. And it is, you know, and they're very successful. And you don't often see that. Look at Paris Hilton, for God's sake. So, in families like that. So that's part of it. I think that family is groomed and they're ready in ways that we don't even know. If he gets the nomination, I do think he will win. I think it'll be a hell of a fun time. I think the Republican base will be angry, but when you look at putting in the Supreme Court, you know, we're looking at this, we're talking 50 to 100 years that this election will change if it goes straight out. Because if Trump if he loses, and I mean the primary especially, if he loses the primary because of this double crossing, the Republican Cruz members, and especially Trump people, are ripping up their cards. It's not just a matter of not voting for Trump. It's the fact that they're not voting for McCain, which I know none of us here are doing that anyway. But we're not voting. I'm not voting for Schweiker, who I kind of like. I can see pulling in for him. But what I mean is that the average Republican is not even. They're done with the party at its core. It's not because their guy didn't get in. It's because they're going to see how corrupt the system is to such a degree that they haven't seen before. We are so used to it, it's like, well, what else is new? But the average person hasn't seen it. And it's being discussed on Fox, which they've never seen. They're seeing the corruption on Fox, which now it's real to them. So when they see it and they realize their vote doesn't matter, and that people are stopping, or the establishment is stopping the majority, they will rip up their cards, and that means that no one is going in. That means the House, the Senate, they're going to lose everybody, and the Supreme Court, they're going to lose. So lose everything at once, and the culture change is gone. So I think that the establishment will be forced to at least buttress Trump to some degree if he's the nominee, and all the way to the end. But if they screw him over, the party's destroyed. And even if the establishment thinks, well, 4 years of Clinton, who cares? We'll come back in 4 years. There won't be any. They could have the party, but there won't be anyone left. It's like me as a doctor. You could all vote for Obamacare. You're not going to have many doctors left who will take it. So congratulations with your own golden ticket. So they're not going to have anyone to vote for him, and this country will be so gone that will be primed for a third-party Trump. And Trump is not going to go back Republican. He will start a new party, and this whole silent majority needs somewhere to go. You know, the Campaign for Liberty was a way to try to drum that up, and Rand Paul thought he would somehow inherit that. But I think Trump has such a larger amount of momentum of bridging different people. Libertarians, Reagan Democrats.
Meet John Doe. You watch that movie and you'll see what's coming.
But they'll pull them all together. I think that'll happen if he loses. If he does win, going to finish this up, if he wins, could he be shot? Probably. I mean, he's certainly out there with the people. I could see it happening. I think, and hopefully you don't shoot me because you're sitting up front.
Yeah, I don't even know.
And I don't know. My concern is I do study history quite a bit. The economic collapse, and you have war and all this. This is the milieu where dictators come from. And when you have someone like Trump, whose modus operandi, why he's successful, is he doesn't get stuck with all the rules. I don't mean that he does things illegally, but he's like a rat in a maze, where you have rats. This is my analogy I give on the show, where rats are in the maze, and they, like for many politicians, we sit around, we go, and you see a block, you go, I'm blocked here. Let me go find another path. Let's find another committee, and let's go get enough delegates, and let's do this and do that. Trump hasn't been stuck with that. Trump sees the wall, and he's like, damn wall. All right, let me get a ladder and go over it. Let me dig underneath and find a practical way. Again, not saying illegally, but he's a pragmatist, and he will find a way around it. And that's what makes him quick. He's a good decider with things.
Twitter.
Okay? He also, in my opinion, is like Ronald Reagan. And what I mean by this is, the comparison, is that Reagan was very good at delegating. Reagan was very good at finding the right people in the job and giving them the opportunity to do it. Clinton, he actually learned from Reagan. When Clinton first got in office, his problem was, remember the first Time magazine, after his first 100 days, it was a famous Time magazine, it was all white, and it had little Clinton at the bottom, and it said, the incredible shrinking president. It was one of the most famous Time magazines, you can look it up, you remember that? Yeah. Well, it was because his first 100 days was a disaster. What they learned that Clinton's problem was, and he hired David Gergen to come in from the Reagan administration at the time to help him out, was that Clinton got ahead in power by having all of his buddies in Arkansas owe him favors to get in politics really quick, and he promised them all jobs. Well, he didn't trust them. He put you in power because you were married to my niece or my sister or whatever else, but I didn't trust what you did. So when he got in, he didn't have anyone he trusted. And Gergen said, look, you need to put in people that you trust and let them do their job. Stop micromanaging people. That's what Clinton did, because he had to be in control. He didn't trust anybody, because he and his wife were sociopaths. That's another story. Antisocial disorder. Anyway, but this is where Trump is like Reagan, where he is able to find the right people and put them in. And so I think because of that, because he's not bound by a philosophy, which could be a bad thing, and I will say that, it's good when you know where they come from. But because he doesn't have a set philosophy, people are scared because they don't know where his next decision will be. They're not seeing the big picture. and so they're scared. And I think Trump, and this is what I'm getting to, don't hit me, I think if he doesn't turn out to be a dictator, which the ingredients are there, I have to say, there's the potential that he could turn out to be a very good president. I know it's probably sounds like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy's sitting here saying this, but I see the other side. The Kool-Aid, thank you, Gary. But I think it's possible that that if he puts the right people in there, it's possible. So anyway, that might come out of it. Next.
Okay, Savar, do you want to say anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, yeah, ma'am, go ahead. What's your name?
I'm Dr. Joe. Another one of those alternative doctors.
Doctor, hello.
I brought some Trumpism today with me. Trump, never give up. Power positive thinking.
Yes.
Which he actually did autograph for me. Oh. And I just think, I wonder if Trump, is all about winning, that he doesn't already have people to help him with his delegate situations. He brought experts in already.
Oh, I'm sure he
Well, you know what? I'm on the email, of course, with all different, even MoveOn.org, I'm on the email, along with Savarda. So I got advance notice about their little protests. So it's got to be interesting to hear from everybody. I got the email from the Trump campaign, the Arizona campaign, and I'll pull it up later, but they were asking me telling me about how the delegates work, and for me to start showing up at my precinct and helping me become... Yeah, did you get one of those? Yeah, so they're already trying to guess, they're realizing the delegate game is there. It's too late for me to also become a member, because I moved recently, to be a delegate. However, if the people show up in mass and confront these delegates and say, we know who you are, we know where you live, and if you turn around and don't vote what the people wanted, we know who you are, and you're done. And I think
we're
that's
going to put Roundup on your lawn.
Well, a lot of it is exposure. If they do it in a club and no one sees them, that's one thing. To me, it's all about the lights. So I think maybe if enough people, if there is a push right before the convention where all the Trump people are given the same message to go out at these delegate precincts with the signs, flood. I mean, I've seen these people. I mean, when you guys are interested, I'll show you the video from the rally. I was right there, right by Trump. It's astounding to see the people when you're there. But those number of people to show up these precincts and flood the room, they're in the parking lot with Trump signs, I think that is enough that might give them, if it's close on the vote, they'll say, hey, the part that gets me angry is that the establishment has told me all the time to hold my damn nose. Barry Young, that guy just ticks me off. Barry Young on that show, he says, I know you want Ron Paul, we know you like this guy and that guy, but you got to settle for who can win. And so, pull for Bob Dole, hold your nose. John McCain's 800-year-old mother said, hold your nose and pull for my son. Remember that? So, basically, hold your nose and pull for McCain, pull for Mitt Romney, pull for Bob Dole, pull for Bush number 68, pull again. You know what? This is what I'm saying to them. You pull your own goddamn nose is how, hold your nose is how I see it. I get a little angry about it. That's my view. I've done enough for that party. It's time you give the reins to the other part that you've said, hold your nose. Well, give us a shot at the driver's seat. Well, how's it been working out for you anyway all this time? And what else are you going to do? Put another milquetoast John Kasich Magoo? You're going to put him, or Jeb, his buddy Jeb? You're going to put them in there? And they're going to do anything different? It's about time. At least give a shot. Let's see what happens. And if the whole country goes to crap, oh well, then you can say I told you so, which is one of the reasons I don't want Trump, because when it does go to crap under him, they're going to say, you see, it was all him. We gave you the reins, and look what happened in 1 year. So that's my only concern long term about what will come out of it. Yeah, threw a lot in that answer. Sorry. It was the coffee. Go ahead. Morpheus.
One of the things that bothers me about Trump is it seems like he's a psychopath, and he has a memory. He doesn't forget anybody that ever crosses him. And so if you're a billionaire, you're going to have a lot of enemies. And now you're the president of the United States. What are you going to do? Okay? And then the other problem I have with him is I think he's going to, I don't know who's going to take us into World War III faster, either him or Hillary. So I'm confused. This whole thing is like, you turn on the radio. I was listening to this thing the other night, and the guy was talking about the amount of coverage that Trump got on the news prior to New Hampshire, and he said he got a quarter of the time of all the news time, and compared to all the 20 other candidates.
Right.
So of course he's going to win. The media loves him, even when he doesn't show up for the the debate, the first question is why are you talking about him? So it's just ridiculous that we're even participating in this ongoing system of like, let's stop voting. Okay, but what do you think of the, of us going to war? Because obviously they're going to elect some, these crazy hypnotized people are going to elect some idiot, some psychopath to be in charge, whatever.
Well, Hillary definitely is the military establishment. I have a question I'll throw back to you.
Yeah.
I know this is the one rule thing. I'm allowed to ask you a question.
Sure.
What specifically do you think? Where do you see him as pushing us more to war? And I'm only saying it because I'll be honest. I don't think things that seem the opposite. He talked about how he didn't want. I mean, he publicly said he was against the wars after 9/11. He didn't want to be part of it. And now they're nailing him on the nuclear deal because he's saying, I don't think it's right that America picks who should have the bomb or not. He says, like guns. Everyone's going to, the bad guy's going to have the guns in the first anyway. All these other countries are going to get it anyway. Let's not stop being the policeman and say Pakistan can have a bomb, but Iran can't because it's expensive and it ticks people off. So it's more of a, that's his view that he stated publicly. So is there something else that he said that makes it look like he's a war president?
Well, just the fact that the way he attacks people, when he's going after people, he attacks them personally, and that may work on a debate, but I don't think that's going to work in a world stage situation. Yes. Where, I think
Putin's getting his
tweet. Bad hair. Okay, well, here, let's launch the bomb.
Okay, I see your point. Okay, I see your point. It's going to be incendiary, and it's like a bull in a china shop with all these world leaders. My opinion with this, and if I hung out with them personally, no. I do feel that I get him. I'll just put it that way. Everyone that's worked with him has said what I said on the show last year, which was this is an act. He has not groomed himself to be a politician, that everything he says to think about what the spin is. I mean, every time you're on these talk shows, they always demand the questions ahead of time. Ben Carson just talked about the other day. He said, you guys don't realize that every time you get a summary of the questions that Bill O'Reilly or Chris Matthews will ask ahead of time. And that's why a lot of these candidates don't go on the shows, or they think ahead of how to spin every question, or they pick and choose. Trump, the reason he has this airtime, and most of it's been against him, I have to add, is because he does every show. That's what all of them say. Bill O'Reilly says, I'd have more Cruz and Carson or whoever else, or Jeb, but the reason they're not on is because their handlers say, nope, you're not agreeing to what questions you're going to ask him. And nope, he's not available. Trump goes, what time? Yep, says to everybody. He doesn't ask for questions ahead. He doesn't sit there and prepare. You don't see his brain go, like when he says something, and he goes, okay, let me see how I can spin it to some grand platitude of, like Ted Cruz. We have to look at the world with bold colors, not bland pastels, and all of this crap. And he just comes out and says, no, I'll take it. Bam, this is what Trump's saying. So this is what I think his demeanor is. It's come from the entertainment world. I mean, he was in the World Wrestling ring with Vince McMahon, for God's sake. I mean, this is someone that's been in that world, and he has a persona, a caricature, but that's not how you get to where he's at. That's not how you do business deals. He understands leverage. I recommend highly, and I said this on the show, and which book is that you got, by the way?
This one is Never Give Up.
Never Give Up. The book I'm going to recommend is his main book. It's called The Art of the Deal. I mean, you've heard about it? Read it. I don't care if you hate Trump. If you hate Trump, you really should read it. If you want to know how his brain works, he's telling you. He's telling you how he works. You can predict what he's doing about handling leverage. And that's why I said my Italian, side, that's their whole business. They deal with $1 million stuff, and that's how they work with leverage. Everything he does, you overshoot. So if you're negotiating here, to really do it is you overshoot some crazy number. It's always the higher number, but he goes even nuttier. To make you think he's crazy. Like, if we're negotiating,
I'm the biggest militaristic kick-ass.
If we're negotiating this cup, and you'll offer $5, it's really worth 10. You offer 5, I say normally 20, right? Trump goes $150 when I want the keys to your car. You know, and you're like, what? What are you talking about? Well, you know what? He's got your attention. You think he's crazy. You think you can, and now, but he's got the leverage. Anything from there is on his territory. So, plus the gift of gab. So the art of the deal says so much. He's an extremely intelligent person, but he's from the streets. He's pragmatic. He hasn't groomed himself with every little thing. So every person that's worked with him has said he is not who you see on TV. Everyone. Geraldo Rivera. He went on. No, but he's. Yeah, I think he's a decent guy, Geraldo. But he went on The Apprentice. He thought Trump was, racist, homophobe, whatever. He wound up winning The Apprentice, and he's Cuban or whatever. What is Geraldo? Puerto Rican or something? Puerto Rican. So he wins The Apprentice, and their families are best friends now. And when he ran for president and talked about the wall, everyone wanted Geraldo's point of view. What do you think? And he's like, damn. Yeah, I can't believe he's saying this, but he's understanding, and he even said, that's Trump, the I don't say entertainer, but the guy that's strategized. It's not really Trump. Ben Carson, who I really have a lot of respect for as a paid person, said the same thing. Because why do you think he endorsed him? It's not because he's going to be Surgeon General, maybe. It's because he said every time after the debates or during the debates in the green rooms, he hung out with Trump. He goes, this is a very insightful, deep person you can talk with. It is not what you see. That's why he's supporting him. Plus, he knows how doomed this country is. Very good question, but I think if it's the image of what Trump has shown everyone through all these reality shows, it's not who he really is. He will be, quote, more presidential. It'll still be a fun ride. I mean, it's still going to be Trump. But it's not this wild card, give me the bomb.
He's kind of started down that road now, too.
But he has to. Go ahead.
Go to Alex.
My other question would be, what's the deal with having to have the majority of the votes in 8 states in order to be considered for the nomination? And I think Trump is the only one that has the majority of 8 states.
Yes, Ted Cruz.
He'll get it in case it has no chance.
Right, crazy. That's a great question towards the end of all this. This is the love I have with Ron Paul. Talk about the last, stick it to them. Ron Paul is getting the last laugh. You guys understand why? Because this rule that the committee does, the RNC makes up the rules at the end, which is why at the end of the day, if they can, they will. As Ernie says, this doesn't matter. They'll just change it. Of course, can they change it in front of everybody with the lights on? Well, they can, but the ramifications may not be what they want. Anyway, the thing is that rule was put in place, for those of you that don't know, in 2012 to stop Ron Paul. Because Ron Paul people were going to go to the convention, put his name up, and that they didn't want his name to be nominated from the floor, so they said, oh, well, you can't just win the plurality? Right. You had to win the majority of 8 states. They just put that at the last minute to keep Ron Paul people from putting him on the floor. So they put that law in 2012, and now, 4 years later, it's biting them on the ass. Because now, it's like now that Trump's the only one that got 8 states, and Cruz and Kasich didn't. And that also means that if Mitt Romney or Paul Ryan, they put the paperwork. They could do what they want, but they cannot nominate them even for the decision because they have not won the majority of 8 states per their rule. Now, do any of us believe that the rules are meant? Are they meant to be broken when you're a part of the RNC? Yeah, but this time though, remember when they made these rules with Ron Paul, nobody cared. This wasn't talked about. Now, every day on Fox, they're talking about the 2012 Ron Paul rule. So that is, again, the exposure that I love that Trump is bringing to this system. He's exposing it, and so can they change it? Yes, Ernie, I know, they can change it. But it will be now shown how they just twisted at the last minute, and then people are talking. Where does 2012 law come from? Rule. It came from screwing Ron Paul. Anyway, I know I was biting at the bit on that one. Anyway, but thanks. Yeah, that's where it's at. We'll see what they do.
How many? I have a bet with Phranq, $1 that Hillary will win, and it's interesting. In my process, I think Hillary will lose, and I think Trump will win. How many people here think that Trump will win? I know Pat.
If he wins the
okay, define win.
Yeah.
He actually gets it at the inauguration with the microphone.
On January 19th in D.C., how many people here think that Trump will win the presidency?
No, wait. Let me be clear. The bet was
how many are are buying tickets to the inauguration. No, Frank and Keith and I are looking. We're thinking,
there we go now.
I got
a party.
I got actually 2 queen beds in D.C. for that
Okay,
week.
just real quick. The bet was
I
very
do.
specific. The bet was this. It was not that he'd win the primary, because I know all the games they'll play. But what I said is that if Trump wins the primary, he will win the general. I don't care who they
If he
throw
gets
up
the
against
nomination.
him. He gets the nomination, he'll win the general. That's our bet. He thinks otherwise.
I actually think Trump's going to win now. I mean, the past
Oh,
month-
now?
Really? Yes.
Oh, my dollar.
Oh my God, Keith drank the Kool-Aid.
Oh my God.
Here's the cup.
I'm just curious. You guys are in the know. My curiosity is the peanut gallery. Does the peanut gallery think that Trump will be the president, or Bernie Sanders as Pat Schwinn, or whomever? I mean, I'm just curious, you guys. Who thinks Trump's going to win? If you don't mind, if you're okay, just raise your hands. We've got 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Really? So you guys really don't think Trump will win? That's
No, how many think no matter who you vote for, the government's going to win? Yeah. You know, this is the view that I have.
Hey,
Well, this is the bet. This is the bet. This is my dollar bet. Keith had a dollar bet. You know, it's kind of like he was saying Hillary will win. He's saying if he gets the nomination.
When it was though, it was long. It was
July.
Oh yeah, it was like the summer. But this was
Trump report.
this was my bet. Jeb. Hillary and Jeb will get the nominations. That was my bet. And Jeb ain't dead. Okay? So we're going to see what happens.
Anyway, one more question here. I just want to articulate that, though. This is not about whether I want Trump to be president. I was just saying how I see the cards. If he wins the primary, I do believe he'll win because of a whole bunch of reasons I won't go into again. But it wasn't about whether I really wanted him or thought he should. It's just that's what I think will happen when he puts everything on this game. Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I have a hearing problem.
Yeah.
And Keith just mentioned my name, so like in the debate, since my name was mentioned, can I ask Keith to repeat what he said?
That's not one of the rules, but you put in your question.
No,
You're the last person.
Because I think you're a Bernie Sanders fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my question was, I think, my question to the peanut gallery was, who thinks Trump will win the presidency on January 1920, or to vote? And I had a few people raise their hands. Most people thought the government was going to win, but who's the government then? Is that the Hillary? Is it Hillary? Because I thought Hillary was.
Oh, it so freaking doesn't matter.
Just doesn't matter. Thank you.
Well, we had a good time with this.
Okay,
go.
I inaccurately stated at the beginning of Ernie's presentation that I watched Fox News. Well, actually, that's not true. We gave up cable, so now I don't get MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, that kind of stuff. But
You do look better.
I lost a little bit. Anyway, I watch Fox 10 a little bit. I watch some of the network stuff. But most of my information really comes from NPR and KTAR. I work in a wood shop, and I can listen to the radio, and I just kind of flip back and forth between them. Yesterday, KTAR said that if the election were held yesterday, that the they, from their math wizards, have concluded that Hillary would pick up like 300 and some electoral votes, and Trump would pick up 100 and some electoral votes. You just said that you think that if Trump gets the nomination, no question, he's going to win.
Yeah.
Why is there such a big gap between you and the KTR projection?
I'm sorry, you were listening to who?
Well, that's a good question. I aside from just the whole thing, we can say, well, they're biased, everyone's biased. Here's a number of reasons. One, we are starting to see it, what my prediction was, starting to play out in other ways. Rush Limbaugh had on his show, he doesn't do many interviews with people, but he had a caller, it was a Kasich supporter. Okay, he goes, wow, we found one. We found a Kasich supporter. Let's put him on. So they had him on. And this person ran one of the campaigns in Boise or wherever. Was running the campaign, and he was asking her, okay, well, what's going on down there? And she's like, wow, Kasich's great, and people love Kasich. And she sounded like a Ron Paul person because she said that she's calling everybody up. And she's not saying, please vote for Kasich. What they're saying to the voters, and they're calling, is, who are you think you'd vote for? Who do you want to vote for? And she says most of the people they call on their list all say we would want Kasich to win. But they're not voting for him. They're voting Cruz or Trump because they don't think he can win. Okay? Now, wait. That's the whole Ron Paul thing. But what's interesting about that comment, this is directly from the Kasich campaign. Think about what's been said, though. The polls that the TV networks tell you over and over is that Trump can't win against Hillary. They keep saying Kasich can win against Hillary. That's what the media keeps, remember? They keep telling you, oh, only Kasich can win against Hillary. Trump's at the bottom, Trump's at the bottom. I don't trust those numbers. No, Kasich's own person just even admitted, when they call around, they're like, well, he can't win. That's why we're voting the other guys. So that's why I think this is really rigged. I'm a surprise. The other reason is that Trump, he has that pulse of the people. He has that it factor. And I hate to make it that simplistic. But I think he'll let go some of the establishment people. Many establishment will still vote for him because they just can't stand the Supreme Court issue. The other Republicans will just vote for him. Then you have the anti-establishment. You have the libertine-minded, the independents. I said early on that my whole theory is based off of the fact that the independent movement is greater than both two parties combined and growing. That movement needs to go somewhere. It's not liberal conservative anymore, and so Trump, I think, is able to tap that. I think also women will eventually go over. It doesn't look like it now, I could see, but I think women, I think will move to him, especially younger women, once he takes on Hillary Clinton. I could keep going, but I think the most important is this, if you add it all up. When it comes to elections, what tends to trump one candidate or the other is the enthusiasm gap they often call. Think this over. No one talks about him voting for Cruz or voting for Kasich or voting for Hillary. It's all about voting against Trump. Trump has what Barack Obama had last time. People wanted President Obama. They voted for Obama, for change, right? They voted for him. They're voting for Trump. And there's nothing more powerful in electoral cycles than when people vote for. Just like Ron Paul. I mean, that movement, he didn't win. But my God, he changed a lot with hardly any money, right? He won in a whole other way. So that's why when you add all that together, I think, and once the Republicans stop beating up on him, he's getting hit on both ends. The media, the Democrats, the Republicans, when that stops, and it's the Republicans against her, and there's no enthusiasm, and the liberals, who are Bernie Sanders fans, finally see how screwed their system is, and that Bernie had no chance of winning because it's all corrupt against her. And then the final coup d'etat, cherry on top, I am not predicting she'll go to jail, but I do believe that whether she's indicted or not, that whole part has not been finished yet. Those emails, the ones that are coming out now, are the ones that she have been putting out. The ones that they collected from the hard drive, that where she deleted 100 or 500 times or whatever, those have not been released at all. If she's indicted, this whole thing goes secret. But if she's not indicted, then all those emails are allowed to go public. And all of this, I think, is being orchestrated to come out later on when she's already no enthusiasm. So you compile all of this up, the momentum, I think he can really take it. Howard Stern's in favor. I mean, the whole media machine.
Okay,
if that's not enough.
My opinion is it just doesn't matter. It's always what's the most recent news. They'll come up with, oh, I'm sorry, all of this just got trumped because of a nuclear mushroom cloud that's over the, whatever, fill in the blank. St. Louis Arch, Golden Gate Bridge, toast, okay? Something's going to happen. One last thing. Les was saying something to me about Supreme Court, something I wanted to get in before the end, but what was it you were saying?
Joyce Riley had Roger Stone on about 2 weeks ago, and the Power Hour, and Ernie's been on the program, and a caller called and asked Roger Stone, he's done a biography on both Bush and the Clinton power. You can have him on. He's been on a lot of it. He's been on CNN. He's been on a bunch of them lately.
Well, I've never had him on before, but he comes on Tuesday in the first hour.
The question was, he said, would he consider, because he's been close to Trump, considering Andrew Napolitano for Attorney General? And Roger Stone's response was, no, he's considering for a higher position, the Supreme Court. the U.S. Supreme Court.
Wow.
So you can't get a better Supreme Court
You
justice.
think about Ted Cruz giving his delegates to Trump if he's appointed to the Supreme Court. Think about that one. That's an interesting play. They're kind of
Yeah, and Chris Christie, Trump was standing here, Chris Christie, and the best headline was, "This is a man with his soul removed." And he just, Chris Christie being the bombastic, his goal was to stand there and motionless for a freaking 35 minutes. And the boy did his job, okay? But what does he open up for? Attorney General, Chief of Staff, Supreme Court. Then you have I wouldn't count on that, but then you have like Carson. He could be anything, Surgeon General, whatever. You have we had Santorum and Huckabee. Both of them had won Iowa in 08 and 12, and they didn't endorse, but they're standing behind the podium and said Trump on it on the night that he wasn't in the debate. Okay, so Trump has been playing this. He's like, can you feel that? I am like, I'm entertained. Are you not entertained? So I have definitely been entertained. And this has been, but I'm with Phranq, and the one reason I was willing to do this on a regular basis, take such a chunk out of the show and so on, is because I knew that I didn't have to cover the presidential crap the rest of the week. And on Thursday, one day, we can go, okay, what happened this week of how he exposed the crap, because you knew there's going to be the crap. This is international. These are a lot of people. I highly recommend, an audience, you got to watch this. If you just put in Network, the movie Network, I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore. That's all anybody remembers from that movie.
Great movie.
That's all they remember. But you have not seen the last scene.
Oh, yes.
Ned Beatty plays They, Them, Those, the head of the network, that build the secret handshake people of whatever the hell. And he goes, "You have messed with the forces of the universe, and you must atone." Okay? So he explains it to the mad as hell, not going to take it anymore guy, what his real role is in this. Why pick me? To this message of we're going to global new world order of whatever. Why me? Because you're on television, dummy. So this is that whole movie of all this Trump rising up, the revolution rising up. In the end, they explain it to you.
Yep.
And that movie, only people remember was mad as hell. They don't remember what the entire freaking movie was about. Is that in the end, the Sean Hannity, Glenn Becks, and everybody come in for the system. Glenn Beck is literally on his knees.
Oh, God.
On stage, people, if you get right with God, you got to vote for Cruz or something. This whole thing is just, it's such a game. It just doesn't matter. And I play on the show, the scene, it comes from Meatballs, where Bill Murray is, it's a summer camp, and they got the big guys, that's always beating them from across the lake and all this kind of stuff. And he goes, it just doesn't matter. These kids have, special dietitians and masseuses and using the latest Russian doping drug, but it just doesn't matter. Because do you know that they have a satellite, blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't matter. I'm telling you, it just doesn't matter. But if we as humanity, as Americans, as the shining light on the hill, if we can realize that we're just the general understanding that they are closing the cage door on us. Mm-hmm. And this wall, I am definitely not in favor of this wall thing. It'd be a big giant scar and blight on this whole country. But he's playing this game. While in 2012 the debriefing that the convention did on this, they came out saying we have to embrace the illegal aliens or immigrants or whatever. That was Jeb Bush's thing. I'm married to a Hispanic. I speak Spanish. Half of them up there speak Spanish. They're from Cuba or whatever, Hispanic descent. They're coming out. We love us some immigrants. Well, who's that? Build the wall. Totally opposite of them. Trump. Well, the people, that wall. Well, I saw what happened when they came to Arizona. And you went to the first. He started this campaign here in Arizona. When he comes to Fountain Hill, here in Arizona, that coloring book was on Fox News. Here's Trump up here standing. Over in the corner over there, you can see Phranq with his iPad, you know. Then and he's like, and he got the Trump book up. So we make a big deal. We're like, I got the coloring book. It's been on TV. If he can ever get, you know, Trump to sign it. Well, another thing. On the Penngate deal, they pushed me back a Penn. Well, he has video on here when he was at the Trump. He's right there. Trump is right there. He wants him to sign it. Hey, put the pen away. Put the pen away. Put the pen away. So the pens were an issue. They're saying, so he sends that clip to Washington Post or whatever and says, look, don't tell me this is not an issue with them. They're doing this all the time. They did it to me. I got video.
Yep. Oh, I got a bunch of hits. I mean, I was just nailing them.
So this is just, you know, we're having fun. We're understand. We know what to do. It's just like with the, you know, the gun thing and CNN. They won't do the live television. Well, I don't want to talk to them unless they do it live. I do CNN. So I'm telling you, it's a game, and they massage it, and if you let them, they will, because they can. So I am just, as humanity learns on a global stage, what's really going on, and we're just as corrupt as Latin America, which has come out today on Freedom's Phoenix, an Intercept article of just how much they manipulated the elections in Latin America with computers and all that kind of, you know, and when they can't stop you, they just shoot you, Mexico. When we learn this, what then? I'm all about the what then, the Freedom's Phoenix, the rise of freedom from the ashes of Lady Liberty's torch. When does that happen? After we learn, after we see, after we understand. And this election cycle is going to create more of that. What's going to come after? I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if you'll see Ron freaking Paul in a meeting with Donald Trump. And certainly if he gets a nomination, or gets elected, or if he doesn't. Because this is a people thing. And until we get past this, and that's why I enjoy having Pat here all the time, representing the left, okay? And this next week, who am I going to have on my show? Stephen Ledman. Stephen Ledman started writing for Freedom's Phoenix 10 years ago. Communist, socialist, left and progressive, whatever you want to say, Hugo Chavez with his buddy, okay?
Yeah, but he's anti-statist.
No, he's definitely anti. Well, let me tell you how that came about. He was sincere. He was a retired, you know, guy from Chicago that started writing, and his health is getting down. He's like, you know, you got to slow down, you got to stop, you're doing an article every day, you got to pull. How many does he do a day now? 3, 4 a day? Yeah. The guy's dying. I'm going, Steven, man, you're killing me here. I thought you were supposed to take it easy. I got stuff to say, man. The clock's ticking. Well, it's what's keeping him alive. So he's doing all this stuff. He has great facts on Syria, Russia, Latin America, the Trump thing. And he's pulling all this in, accumulating all this data. His conclusions are different than what we would have. Therefore, there needs to be more of a policy of a Department of Government should fix this. And I'm going, no, that's I got there. So, but over the time, he's changed. I knew that I wanted him and his readers that come to Freedom's Phoenix, they get that libertarian brush across with cortex every time. And sooner or later, all of a sudden, they're freaking libertarian, including Stephen. Now, Stephen's going to come on, and we'll have a nice conversation about the Trump thing. And he's going to definitely have an opinion. But it's going to be based on facts and his perception of, you know, Pat and Phranq watching MSNBC and, you know, CNN and Fox. So I'm waiting for something else. You know, Ernie, what are you doing? How come you're not coming out for Rand? How come you didn't this? How come you didn't that? Why aren't you running for whatever? I got, you know, Democratic-leaning lobbyists. They're wanting, you know, Barry and I to run for office. They're going to pay and put us on the ballot because the Democrats only believe they can win if there's a libertarian in the race. So what can they do to get us? And I go, how would it forward the movement? I don't know. Let's talk about it. But if it doesn't, then I don't care. I'm not there just to be a spoiler. How are we going to have an education and understanding? This hasn't even started yet. All these signs, all these efforts, all the stuff that we do, it's just a foundation and the infrastructure set for when the people really get to have their say. Social media, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, all these are massaged and trimmed in such a way that you only get the news feeds that you want. You're only able to communicate with your friends in a certain number. You have to pay an extra $20 to get out there. I mean, all this stuff is just data control. So I'm going, all right, what's going to change the planet is a decentralized internet that's coming to where we are all peer-to-peer nodes of it's not going to be a central server, kick it in, and you're not allowed. When that happens, the entire infrastructure for freedom and human expression and the exercising of all of our rights are all of a sudden just going to be a tsunami against government control, regulation, and censorship. When that happens, which the internet showed you just a glimmer of how much it can happen, but all the great videos, all the Google trending data, all of the Google Ron Paul super charts of everything, the information that we have, they're gone. They're being deleted off the internet. If it's YouTube, Google, different web pages, they're just dropping like flies. All this great data and information that we would use to go, see, this happened before, gone. It's going like you wouldn't believe. 65,000 videos of Mox News, done. They're off. We Are Changed, Luke Rudowski, boom, ad revenue, taken off. Storm Clouds Gathering, oh, they want to shut them up. Antiwar.com, you can't make money off of Google ad revenue of AdSense, words of blah, 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 blah. They are going after all of this information. So what do we have in place of it? We have to have an infrastructure to where videos, commentary, talking, issues, real documents, validation of whatever the heck, that it's put somewhere, it can never go away. And these abilities are right there. It's already starting to happen. It won't have a big impact on this election cycle, but I guarantee you it is on the next one. This election cycle, the one before and the one before, is when I say, what's the difference between a libertarian and an anarchist? About 2 or 3 election cycles if you're paying attention. And this is what's happening. We're paying attention, and this is going to manifest itself into something freaking else. And it will not just be America. It's a generational thing across the world. In May, I go speak in Marrakesh. I just went to Acapulco. I'll be going to Europe. I go, speak about what? All the little minutiae of who should vote for whatever? Hell no. I go and I say, let me tell you why I'm optimistic. Here's all the technology that's going to empower an individual. And remember in the late 80s, you had what? Wayne's World. Where they're doing it was these characters from Saturday Night Live, party on, excellent, as always, Garth, okay? So they're sitting there running a satellite public access station from their grandmother's basement influencing the world. Nobody thought that's not even possible. Of course it is. And when the internet hits and all of a sudden you have some of these podcasts or these TV shows or these YouTube channels or whatever, what happens? And they start censoring them or taking them down. When we can get to where you can't do that anymore, and that's everything that I'm pushing on, well, who'd be the first kind of guys that you had that stuff up? Like what Roger Stone is doing. Roger Stone will be on Tuesday. Now, just Thursday, Friday, or Wednesday, I had on Walter Block, big Austrian economist, Trump's Libertarians for Trump. And I convinced him on, I go, why? He goes, because he's anti-war. Well, more than the other guys, okay? And I go, well, what about Bernie? I was on the track team with Bernie in high school. We went to college our first freshman year. We're buds. You know what? I'll call Bernie. We'll see if we'll get to be Libertarians for Bernie and Trump. So I'm going, how are you going to sell that, anti-war? Ish. So what am I really looking for? Later. This is all just part of later. I've been doing a whole bunch of for later. Why? 2016 was the year when Don and I started 20-something years ago, is when our kids were going to be our age when we started. Well, that we knew was 2016. So for 25 years, we've been waiting for this. Why? Because we need people to know what we knew 20-something years ago to go to the next step. Well, you're getting a dose. Trump report. Thanks to Phranq. Phranq, go ahead and do your thing.
Yay! I had a question before we start. If I win and I get that book called The Faith of George W. Bush, is there any Well, you and our chapter has Lucifer in it.
We have a book burning.
Yeah, here you go.
Okay, we got that stack of books back there on the table. If you don't find what you like on the table, there's a box underneath and 2 bags. Help yourself in whatever you need to get something. 8078. First chance.
No.
Go.
7, 8.
8078.
Get him, buddy.
Yeah. Who wants the book? Because I don't.
I'll take a
Look at this one.
Okay. I'll let him get over there first chance. Second, if you can beat your way through. 8080. 8080.
But you won last time.
We got a winner.
There we go. We have a winner.
Got a winner over there? All right. Okay, last chance to fight their way through over there, and I can't find the number. There it is. 8072.
There you go.
8072.
We have a winner.
All right.
Rigged.
Did you guys get enough information today to make it through the week?
I hope so.
And now you see why it goes 5 hours every Thursday.
All right. It's got to hold you till the first Saturday of next month. Look on the website to find out where.
Or you
when,
go to
and
the
what
show
time.
next Thursday.
And watch Ernie's show. I mean, listen. See you guys later. Thank you for coming.
Well, Trump's been tweeting.
No.
Wisconsin has suffered a great loss of jobs and trade, but if I win, all of the bad things happening in the U.S. will be rapidly reversed.
Yeah, the way I understand Wisconsin works is they did get so many delegates, they went to congressional districts.